Scenes.
Oh my god.
Hello.
Hello.
Ho.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're in for one today.
Let's get ready to rumble.
In the red corner.
How are you doing, guys? In the red corner there is you and Lee's.
Yes, and in the blue corner, there is Graham Dishington.
We're gonna fucking just punch fuck at each other.
That is it. This is the knockout episode.
This is the fighting episode.
I'm really excited for it.
Content. In a minute I'm gonna push the next one. You just
Yep.
how you doing, guys? It's good to hear you.
Yes,
We're Scenes Podcast.
we are Scenes Podcast.
We are Scenes.
We are, man,
Scenes.
scenes.
How you doing, Graham? You alright?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, it's sort of like I want to say something profound and prevent it. I'm alright.
I know. I feel like for this one we should have brought notes or something.
Maybe.
But I always feel like that because I think you are immensely more prepared for these things because you just withhold the knowledge much better than me.
That's more likely, yeah. I just have too much going on in my brain that I can just funnel out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The problem is there's no sieve.
True.
So like I just like vomit all my spaghetti thoughts out.
Man knows.
Like they all just hit the bottom of the sink and it's like they're all there now. And
Oh.
now if you want to look, if you people are listening to this, you get to sort through my wet spaghetti thoughts.
Have fun.
There's go. There's a little bit of sauce in there as well if you want.
Ooh.
I'll do some Domino stirring. So we're intimidated, Graham. Why are we intimidated? Why are we scared, Graham? What's scary?
Today, as keen listeners might have noticed, is we've been going through the Star Wars era by era. This is the sequel era.
This is
The Disney
the
era.
Disney era, yeah, the post-acquisition.
Yes.
This is the real shit. We're in
This
the
is-
trenches now.
The newest shit that has been peddled by the Disney corporate machine.
Oh my god.
Joking. Yes, but it is the most recent Star Wars content that you've all been privy to over the last, 7 years? Bit longer than that, maybe. When
the
was Force
acquisition
Awakens?
Was 2014, I think it was.
No,
Force-
16, maybe.
Force Awakens was like 16. It was like 15, 16.
Yeah, so what's that? 8 years?
God, it's been a decade. Ooh. I mean, we've
Oh,
talked
nearly
about some
is,
stuff
aye.
up till now anyway.
Yeah.
Because, like Andor and Obi-Wan and that. But,
True.
the post-Return of the Jedi era specifically
Mm-hmm.
is like very much like that is to be defined by Disney. Anything
Definitely.
like Andor and Obi-Wan's really just riffing on stuff that's already there.
Yeah.
Everything post-Return of the Jedi
Mhm.
has to be defined.
Yes.
Now, obviously, that was in lieu of Legends.
Right, yeah.
2015 it was for Force Awakens.
Damn, that was a quick
That's
turnaround.
it. I'm pretty sure the acquisition was 2014, if I'm not wrong.
Damn.
Yeah, so, we come out of the Disney acquisitions in 2014. It's quite a prolific thing. I actually even remember it. And back then,
What was
I
it, 3 billion?
I think it
The
was
Lucas
3
got
million. It was
Something
definitely
like that.
a couple of bill.
Which, I mean, I would say is some astute business, really.
4.05 billion
Man,
Disney paid for Lucasfilm.
they must have made that back.
Definitely already. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Was it not rumoured that they'd made it back in the sheer merchandising machine
Already?
around Force Awakens and that?
Yeah, probably, man.
Yeah, they purchased this 2014, a lot
Mhm.
of money. We mentioned it's sort of in a weird place at that time.
Uh-huh.
You do have Clone Wars coming out. Like Lucas is kind of up to stuff, but
Yeah.
Star Wars is still a bit like meandering.
Mhm.
It's not really got
There's
the
not
same...
been a movie in almost 10 years at that point.
Yeah, like no, a lot of people really just don't think of it in this. Like it was the prequels, and then you're like, oh, even
Yeah.
though Revenge of the Sith was great at the time, it was a lot like, like what
Yeah.
up to now.
Mhm.
Clone Wars was surprisingly good, but no, barely anybody was going to be watching it. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
And then you had like the toys, and you had like just the litany of books and comics and
Yeah.
other just schlock.
Which people were enjoying, but
Some of
not
it was
the
good schlock. I say
mainstream.
schlock lovingly.
Yeah.
A lot of really good expanded universe stuff, but it was a lot. It was complicated. Some guys writing a book about like 50 years in the future, like Han Solo's grandson, and there's like fucking a hot, sexy Sith lady. And then other people are like, man, what about these bug aliens from another galaxy that drop a moon on Chewbacca? Whoa, what's that about?
Whoa.
So Disney purchase it, and then they say, hey, we're going to do it. We're going to make Star Wars great again.
Yep.
We're going to build a wall,
Yep.
and we're going to make the EU pay for it.
Yes. And we're going to make sure that none of that old shit gets go over the wall. Okay.
Literally. Well, they're going to put a wee door on it,
Right.
and Mickey Mouse is going to stand
Yeah.
there, and like a Grand Admiral throne.
And if you're nice to us, we'll let you in.
like fucking, I don't know, George Lucas's plans for episode 8, we'll let you.
Aye.
Yu Zong Vong,
Nah,
Hang
we
on.
didn't. We've got plans.
You're
We've got
not
plans.
You're not on the list.
It's not. No. Let us in. We're gonna dress differently. We're gonna be called Denial, right?
Oh,
Like, we'll let them in now.
oh, bro, it's like the Grisk. That's actually, you see them out. They're actually literally like the Yuzong Vong, which is, just to quickly summarize, they're the aliens from another galaxy.
Yeah.
In Legends, there were these like aliens who like flew like meat ships. They were like a biotechnological
Right.
species. They also just were not affected by the Force, which famously George Lucas said that's dumb and I hate it.
Yeah.
And in the new canon, there is like this sort of like replacement species called the Grisk, who aren't like the same in terms of, they're not like bioorganic. They're just like another species. These guys are for the unknown region, and they're like a big threat.
Right.
They're actually they sort of retcon the Yuzong Vong back into Thrawn.
Okay.
So in the original Legends, it was like Thrawn was
I
like,
thought he messed with him at some point.
he's literally like the Yuzong Vong are on their way and they're gonna fuck us up, and I need
Yeah.
to go like work with the Empire. And then the new canon, it's like the Grisk are on their way. I need to go up with the Empire to defend the Chiss ascendancy and that.
Right.
But I've tapped on something interesting there right before we get into all of it. George Lucas famously did not care about the EU.
Yeah.
People kind of act like, oh, why didn't they why didn't Disney adapt Heir to the Empire immediately, or why didn't Disney adapt like the fucking Yuzong Vong? And it's like probably because when Disney took it, they were first focus was to streamline.
Yeah.
It was to trim everything down, cut off all the fat, take what was crucial in core of the narrative, and then work from there and try and develop it a bit more pace, and without things getting a bit too silly, a bit too fast.
Yeah.
Like there is some weird stuff in Legends. There's like
yeah.
Han Solo fights like a big sea otter, like
Aye,
with fists.
like, what's that about?
There's like a story where like Luke and Leia's like, is it Luke and Leia's kids? Is it Leia and Han's kids get trapped in a space station, and there's like
Right.
an orb.
Man, alien.
There's like a golden orb,
Right.
and it's like sentient, and he puts them in like a fairy tale
Okay.
to try and like trap Luke. I think that's a weird one actually. That's like reputable. I've heard people call that literally the worst book
Right.
in
Fair.
Star Wars.
Fair.
I can't even mind the name of it now. But George Lucas famously was like, I don't care. It's not mine. I care about
Yeah.
the movies. I care about Clone Wars.
Man signed off on it and just got the paycheck.
I'm pretty sure he's like agreed on like, I don't like Mara Jade, who
Right.
was in Legends. That was Luke Skywalker's like wife.
Yeah.
I think he was. He definitely said, I just don't like that the Yuzong Vong
Aren't affected
are
by
affected
the
by the
Force.
Force. That's just
Yeah.
not how it works. I
Yeah.
didn't design it like that. The Force doesn't work like that. Like you can't just not be affected by the Force.
Aye.
I want to know what it was like about Thrawn, because in the original Thrawn trilogy, there was this plot element called the Salamiri,
Right.
which are like Force repellent lizards.
Right.
They're not
So
like not affected by it, but they like literally
they're
create-
like obviously the opposite of it.
kind of.
Or they're like the adversary
They
to it.
create like a bubble, and I think you literally
Right.
can't, like the Force just has no effect past it.
Right.
Like you can't like Force push them because the bubble just stops it.
Right.
And I think maybe if you're in the bubble, you can't use the Force. Thrawn like wears them. He literally lets this lizard sit on his shoulder, and then no one can use the Force on him.
Oh man, that's kind of based.
And I think again, it's kind of like the Force kind of has to have an effect on everybody.
Yeah.
But it's not like the Yuzong Vong are bad because they're literally just, we just aren't affected by the Force.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. I think the Salamiri more are like have this thing going on.
Right.
But oh god, I'm gonna cut the waffle there because the Legends is a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a big mess.
Famously didn't much care for it, and then Disney were like, yeah, we're just gonna cut it. We're gonna trim the fat. We're gonna
Fair.
streamline it to hell.
And it's not completely forgotten because they do reprint the books now with a Legends tag.
Yeah.
So
like
the best
Essentials
stories they're gonna keep imprinting and stuff.
Exactly that. Aye, like the comics are still getting the omnibuses and that, and then
Yeah.
they've got the Essentials line, which is just get a bunch of the books in it now. Even like ones that I didn't like. Courtship of Princess Leia's getting printed, and I thought that was like a bad one,
There you go.
but
We'll print anything.
I was gonna say they're like are on it, and people seem to love it. I have. I don't have the reprints, do I? I have my Thrawn trilogies like marked as Legends, but I don't
Right.
think it was the Essentials collection.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll keep it about, but they're very much we're focused on our own sort of like what
Yeah,
we've got.
like how we want to do it.
Yeah, and it's. I think it. A lot of people have obviously got controversial opinions about it, especially based on your relation to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have that link, so it was kind of good when I sort of got into it. I
Aye.
knew about some of the more confusing elements, and it's like, no, I feel like I'm getting in good now. I don't need to feel the weight of 500 books rather than
Aye.
like from the past to the
Like
future.
I was never that into it. Like Star Wars was just like the prequels for me,
yeah,
pretty much. Then I saw the original trilogy, so I only get into the books when the High Republic started, because I was like, it's lockdown. Fuck it, I'll read a Star Wars book.
Let's get involved.
Let's go.
Let's just the whole situation.
This
going on
sounds
in
like
the
a
fucking
cool
High Republic.
idea. Aye, that's a fucking whole episode to itself.
Bro.
The High Republic.
I need to get involved with the High Republic more than I currently am.
I'm
which is still
currently
interesting.
stockpiling the book. I haven't like
I
read
was gonna
past
say,
the
you
second
literally
one.
have like a fucking
Like
situation.
literally. So it's just they're just there waiting for me one day, rainy day.
Yeah, I mean the High Republic's a good shout because that's like what's interesting about that is how it's like bending back to how they did used to do it.
Yeah.
Where like because the one thing about Legends that I had that hasn't been as much these days is they were able to tell complete different narratives. The
Right.
X-Wing books are a good example. There's just a whole like stories about like Wedge, fucking X-Wing pilots just doing shit.
Right.
And they've got better at it. Like there's trilogy of books by Alexander Freed, the Alphabet Squadron ones, which are like, yeah, it's just about like this group of fighters and it follows them for a bit. Then the High Republic's on this is a whole ass initiative.
Aye.
This is like comics and books and shit all for this one part of the world that's just
Aye.
not to do with the movies.
Yeah.
And even the property, like the show, the Acolyte's still like at the arse end.
Yeah. It's not even like properly in it, and even Mangled movie isn't gonna be in it. It's gonna be before it.
Oh yeah,
Probably.
Mango's movie is like nowhere near the High Republic.
This is like
I don't even did.
Man,
Mango's movie is like nothing
fucking,
to the High
the
Republic.
Mortis gods have been born. That's it.
Literally, like fucking full Mortis. And the Acolyte, I feel like it's going to be like literally distinctly after.
Yeah,
I bet you Face is going to end in like fucking, I don't know, Markion Rolick gets slapped upside the head, and then Nyla defeated.
So sad.
And then you get the Acolyte.
Yeah.
And that way, even then, the books still have their own thing going on.
Phase 3's just started, right?
Yes.
I know the comics like just came out.
Shadow of the Starlight came out, which is the first issue of Shadow of the Starlight, which is literally the first story of Phase 3.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's literally fucking incredible.
Bro, I have no doubt it is.
I'm obsessed with
I have no doubt, man.
this shit. High Republic Adventures for kids.
Bro.
They just announced that they're going to... You saw that on Twitter.
As a Young Jedi, the show, right?
Young Jedi Adventures, sorry, aye. It's going to have like Loading Great Storm. And I think, is that Bell Zettifar, the one with the dog?
I
can't remember that name.
Aye, the charred like dog.
Aye.
Bro, they don't know what's going to happen.
I know, like
to
Starlight
them.
Beacon's in it as if like, bro, those
Oh my
kids
God.
are fucked, bro.
Yes. Oh my God.
I love them. Like, I want to know if those kids are like about. Like, were they there?
Bro.
Was Nubs on the Fall of Starlight Beacon? Like,
Bro, did man make it out? I don't know. Bro, fuck.
to keep going through there.
To keep
sorry,
going through
I'm,
that, sorry.
I'm so keen to waffle. Not that I'm
know.
afraid to get into what we're talking about. Just the facets of Star Wars and the Disney
there
era.
is more than you think there would be.
Yes,
Definitely.
that's especially true. And it's such a faceted thing now, the discussion of the ongoing lore in the face of the Disney ownership.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they came along and they were like, wait, well, fucking Donkey Dong Doug that
Yep.
we are.
Yep.
We're going to just do another trilogy. We're just going to do like an episode 7, 8, and 9.
Fairs.
Which it wasn't really unfounded because obviously
Yeah.
George famously did think about it. But I mean, George and another one, people keep thinking George should come back and make movies. He was one who famously said, I wanted to make more movies, and then you all shouted at me about them because you didn't like the prequels, so why the fuck would I make more movies?
Do you know what? That's fair, man.
I think at the time that he sold Disney, he was like, yeah, fuck you guys, you fucking were mean to me. I kind of get that.
Fair, yeah.
Maybe we should have bullied him further.
Nah.
Would we be now? Would he have sold to Disney?
It's a cool one to think about, because like, what if he never sold it and then eventually did make the trilogy?
Exactly.
And then we still had all the legend shit and we were just dealing with ourselves?
I think, because you're always going to have the prequel trilogy coming back around and getting its due course, but then imagine that in a world space where it's like, yeah, I mean, we still do have to consider like what's George going to do in 7, 8, and 9? Like, are people going to have the same complaints where like George does 7, 8, and 9 and it's his own thing? Because George had treatments for 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
8 had a lot of stuff from George's treatment for an episode 8.
Yeah.
So it's like if he presents this and people are, well, that's not the Yuzong Vong, that's not like Chewbacca getting wing dropped on him.
Yeah.
That's not like fucking Luke Skywalker's like great grandson or whatever it was. Whoever Jason Solo is.
I don't think the
I think Jaina and Jason are Han and Leia's kids. I'm sure there's a Cade Skywalker who's
Cade
like
Six.
like I think he's like son or grandson, and he gets like pure haunted by Luke's Force ghosts because he's an arsehole. And Luke's Force ghost is like, stop being an arsehole.
That's amazing.
Bro, I mean, I wish they did that with Kylo Ren a wee bit.
It's funny. Fuck, man.
But Kylo Ren, Christ. So
I think the backlash. I think there would have been backlash.
yeah,
But I don't think it. For some reason, I do not think it would have been as severe as we did get.
I think so. I think
And
because
that might just be the times we were living in at the time, and like, so what came out after Force Awakens, but before Last Jedi? Was it just them one
Rogue
after
One.
the other? Rogue One.
One's 2016.
But Rogue One was like okay, but it wasn't like Force Awakens bang. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Although I
don't
think
know.
in retrospect, I think it's better.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
At the time,
I
yeah,
agree.
it was kind of like, oh, that was actually really good. But
Yeah.
you know.
So it might just be something like that. I just felt a bit, we're just not hitting the heights. And then 8 comes out and it's vastly different than people expect it to be. So it didn't help. And then you had everything else going on with it, like the discourse.
The discourse TM.
And I mean, it's the minority discourse, like on Twitter and stuff.
Ah,
But it was
you know,
still,
like, before we
it was
say
still everywhere.
it's still like fucking loud and annoying, and it's like
Yeah.
buzzed by 1,000 bees at once.
Exactly. Then you get to the last one, and you
God,
you get to
then
solo,
you've got,
which
like,
is a dumb move.
The fumbling and the solo marketing, and then like
then you get to the last one, which is just that we need to get us out now.
Nine's like a whole situation.
Exactly. So that's the kind of timeline we're looking at here.
I think it's so. What you're looking at here is like there might be some acceptance of like, well, it's George, and we like George.
Yeah, I think that would have been some like
Although I wonder
credit
if
built up.
Some of the George deifications because he's now not part of it. Like, okay, George isn't here anymore, and they've now done things that we don't like, so we can say George wouldn't have done that.
Definitely, I think that's part of why people. I think that's part of why I'm like, oh, Dave Filoni like is really good, and he's got some credit built up because
he is like basically the apprentice. He's been with them, and
he seems like that kind of way.
Want to take the most, but that's what's interesting is like like Dave takes a lot for George purely on the basis of like they've worked together for so long, they literally has trained him, and I would say Dave is like he seems to share the most similar opinions to George and want to parrot it, but it's like anything else who's not Dave is like not connected. Like J.J. Abrams and like Ryan Johnson and all that, they're like not like connected. So even if they did have things that really gelled with a vision, like they're still not like they're not part of the inner circle. They're not part of the cool guys club. Yeah. So Dave Filoni can rarely do any wrong because
it's not like Dave and John. You know they're in.
Yeah. Although like I would argue that they can do wrong and they have done wrong.
Yeah. Well, no one's faultless. No one's faultless. Definitely. Yeah.
But that's a fault more of the Star Wars fandom than the quality of the content itself. Yeah. The rush to deify people. The rush to be like George Lucas is perfect. Yeah. Dave Filoni is perfect. John Favreau is perfect. Whereas J.J. Abrams is the devil. Ryan Johnson's the devil. Kathleen Kennedy's the devil. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're making things. And all
of them can be good and bad.
Yeah, literally.
I would argue that the last three you mentioned there are more bad than good, especially in the handling of this trilogy that we're going to speak about later on.
Okay, yeah. I mean, look,
it's not just the three. Obviously.
Well, it's when you say Ryan's more bad than good.
I'm just putting the three as like
even JJ in general. I'll give you some credit there. I think what's realistically an issue is it's what we talked about.
And I don't think necessarily like. Well, I'll put my point is on this trilogy is it's a failure from like the top down in a sense that I'm going to say Kathleen Kennedy. But it's just because that's the name we're all familiar with, right?
We've had a discussion about this already, where I've like even I can admit, like
like the handling of it's
something's
not
went
great.
wrong here.
Exactly,
it's not been done how it should be done. It's not been thought through properly.
Yeah, like if they just talk to each other more, it probably would have worked out okay.
My perspective on the sequel trilogy debacle is like, I think the problem is the first two parts look a lot worse in comparison to how badly they handled the ending. Right. If J.J. Abrams had made a decent enough movie, or for fuck's sake, like, did you ever read the synopsis and the shit for the original episode 9, the Colin Trevorrow one? No. So, like, you can literally just find the scripts for episode Duel of the Fates.
Who was meant to direct it?
Colin Trevorrow.
Who the fuck's that?
He's the guy who did Jurassic World. Right. And people were like,
the first one's alright.
Well, people are like, it's going to be shit because you say the first one's right. People think, no, that's also shit. People hate Jurassic World.
The second one was mid. The third one's awful.
You think the third one's awful? Aye. This was like, we had like the first one.
Right.
Maybe the second one, people are like, no, Trevorrow's shite. Like, Jurassic World's shite. It's just a bunch of like fucking backwards thinking pandering and shit. And then like the script for episode 9, originally called Duel of the Fates, get leaked.
Base title.
And like, I think there's 2 scripts that get leaked, so there is differences, but everything in it, 80% of the stuff in it's actually kind of like insanely better than what we got and reasonably.
We should have just done it, aye.
Yeah, there's some shit in it that I don't like. Like one of the treatments has got like a Ray Poe romance, and it's like that. And then it's like, oh, by the way, also like Kylo Ren gets revealed to have killed Ray's parents anyway, which makes no sense in the timeline. Okay. Unless it was like a weird like, oh, by the way, see you later on, I went back and killed your parents.
Aye. Well, that's just another example of, like, nobody's talking to each other.
Aye. Nobody's talking to each other, but also nobody's, like, doing the time, like, nobody's, like, proofreading enough. Like the issues with the College Wars script, they could have been phased out, but they were like, no, we don't get time. We're like, crank this out for the fucking season. Aye. We're not going to, like, work together properly enough. We're going to just, like, throw everybody at it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm like, I think the problem was episode 7 and episode 8, realistically, if you look at them on their own, if there wasn't a plan, they were still floating by all right. They work together enough, and even if you agree,
I can see your point. I would disagree, but I can see your point.
Like, I think if episode 9 had been better overall, would have landed for people a lot better anyway, because at least it was all going somewhere. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like episode 9 just was like a complete fucking. We dropped all the fucking oranges, like we tripped, and the fucking crate get emptied all over the floor. Yeah, and like this whole scenario was an embarrassment.
Yeah, for the biggest franchise on the planet. Yeah, other than Pokemon.
And this is like in deference to the fact that I really, really like what the sequels were doing. I fucking love episode 8. I've said it before, I'll just say it here at the top. Last Year is my favourite movie. I love so much about what they were going for in that movie. I respect Force Awakens a lot for being like yes, it was a remake of 4, which
yeah.
I need to pace myself. I'm ready to talk about 4. I'll just say now, yeah, it was a remake of 4, but at least it was like we're going to go back to how it should have been. We're going to go back to like high quality effects, not just green screen and everything.
Yeah.
We're going to like tell a more traditional Star Wars story. There was a line.
Keep it simple.
There was a line that one of a YouTuber I like called Nero said, which was episode 7 was all fan service, which was fine because the fans hadn't been serviced.
Aye. Okay.
It's like, yeah, like it did what it needed to do at the time.
Yeah.
And I was always like, when people started complaining about 7 being basically 4 again, I was always like, yes, but well, as long as 8's different, and by God, 8 was different.
8 was very different.
So in my head, I was like, well, cool, just keep the energy going, land the plane.
Yeah.
And they did not. They just fucking
nosedive.
Turned it, concorded it.
Yeah.
But, okay, first, a correction.
Yes, from last episode.
So we actually did forget last episode, The Bad Batch.
Bad Batch.
Which is an animated Disney Plus original series that takes place after the Clone Wars.
Yes.
And it's about the sort of transitionary phase between the Clone Wars and the originals. I just wanted to give it its due course here.
Yes.
I've watched both seasons. Have you watched both seasons?
I've not watched all of season 2.
You really should.
I know. It's not even that I don't, because I love the Bad Batch. I love all of these animated clone adventures.
Say, well, you love Clone Wars, so Bad Batch is just Clone Wars again.
Literally, it's so good.
But it's like really good at just mixing it up. By the way, like the Stormtroopers in this one.
Like
Tarkin's in this one.
Get
Tarkin's
involved.
in Clone Wars, I suppose.
True.
But yeah, I mean...
Oh man, do you know who's in season 2? What's his name?
Bad Batch?
Aye, from Rebels.
From Rebels?
Aye, I think he's in it. The guy. What's his name?
What guy?
The guy for Rebels, the Empire guy, who becomes like part of the crew.
Callus?
Aye, Callus is in it.
No, he's not.
So he's in like the first episode.
No, he isn't.
Aye, he is. You know, kill a like Stormtrooper for being like, oh, you failed at your job, bro.
No, that's... In episode 1, Bad Batch season 2, it's the baddie, Rampart, and he kills that clone because they wanted the clone to lie about seeing the Bad Batch on his report or something. Where are you smoke this way? The Rebels character that's in Bad Batch is fucking Hera.
Is it?
Aye, there's the 2-parter on Ryloth.
Bro,
and
you
see like
sure
young Hera
he's
and
not in it?
Bro, I think I would
100%.
know. We've just been rewatching it.
Damn, man. I thought it was thingy. Damn, man.
I want to know where you've got that for.
I just thought it was. Maybe I'm obviously just misremembering, but I thought it was, bro.
It's literally...
I was like fully
fucking
100%, like I've put that in my head. Have I Mandela affected this? It'll be even funnier if I'm right.
No, you're like the opposite of right.
Fuck, man, wrong.
Man's like full wrong.
Damn, bro. Callus, Agent Callus.
Oh, I love him though, great character.
What a chad.
But yeah, for Bad Batch, like, I mean, we've not really got the time to talk about it because we need to talk about other things, but
yeah.
I mean, all he says, like, looks great. Probably
Great
the
show.
best the animated series I've ever looked.
Yeah.
I'd say for Bad Batch, and that's a guy who likes the Rebels art style more than Clone Wars, but Bad Batch is just...
Aye, we peak it in 7 and we just keep peaking it a little bit each time. We get
literally like, let's take this 7 art and just keep pushing it.
Yeah.
I think it's got one of the tightest stories. It's got very little to no filler. There's like one episode where I think I don't really like that one. It's kind of like not really that big a deal.
Right.
Like season 2's got these episodes at the start which feel like completely like what was the point in that? And then it's actually critically fucking relevant for like characters and plot developments later on in the season.
Okay.
So I really love that. I really think it's really tightly written. Everyone's got such a distinct like sort of situation, and some characters maybe get less attention than others. Like Tech and Echo.
Yeah,
got
but
a
Echo
lot of attention.
has had a big thing from the Clone Wars through, so that I can accept, really.
And then they just filled the gap in season 2 by just giving Tech a bunch to do. Tech has so much to do. But yeah, it's a fascinating story. I love it. I found family stories good, especially in Star Wars. That's a really traditional... I mean,
Some
Rebels,
bread and butter, you know?
Like, it's such a good one.
Yeah.
It's tried and true, and it's, you know, I love it as well. But yeah, no, I mean, it just rocks in every sort of capacity. It's fascinating that they took a bunch of like stereotypes basically, and well, no, we actually are going to do like a whole compelling narrative thing.
Yeah.
I was on the team of like most folk when they were like, we're going to do a Bad Batch show. It's like, who's a Bad Batch show?
I was in, man, because I love the episode of Clone Wars.
Yeah, well, I mean,
The two-parters.
not even in a bad way, but you, as you say, are just a clone guy.
Yeah, man.
They're like, we're going to do another clone show, and you're like, balling. Another clone show, let's go.
And I'm like, oh, it's the fucking like rejects that have got like special specific abilities.
Fucking Dirty
let's
Dozen.
go, bro. Yeah.
And then they were like, by the way, it's also going to be a bit like the actual what happened to the clones after Order 66 and what's the transition like. And I'm like, okay, that shit's fucking bog, actually.
Like, oh, what happens if like one of them, you know, still got the chip? And, like, how can they like?
How they all relate to
how
the
can
chip.
they counter that programming?
So good. It really deftly weaves in like other media as well. Like certain things pop up and you're like, oh look, cool. It's not like a fucking like, oh my god, it's Luke Skywalker for the Mandalorian. It's like, oh my god, like Fennec Shan's in this because I mean she would have actually been a bounty hunter. There's no reason why Fennec Shan wouldn't have shown up at this point.
She's available,
but she also didn't need to be.
Yeah,
and that's why it's like, oh, it's cool that they grabbed her and they're like, yeah, let's make her work.
Could have been anyone else.
There's like an episode in season 1 where they go to Braca from Fallen Order. It's the junkyard planet. Although considering the time it takes to make animation, it's debatable like who came first. They may have made it for the show and then Fallen Order was like, I mean, we got to
use
turn the planet in.
Aye.
No, I think it's a really beautiful, tightly made project. Not to disservice the Lord Xavier, not really a Dave Filoni project. It's actually Jennifer Corbett who's like the main runner on this one. Dave gets credit, especially for like creating the characters and that. But
yeah.
So shout out to Jennifer and like the whole team. It's just
pushing it.
Fascinating one. Coming up for another tightly wound third and final season.
Let's go.
I think
nice compact 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think it's got the perfect place to finish on a point. Like there's a bunch of threads that are like, if these might be predictable in how they end some of them, but it'll be sufficient,
told correctly,
and what's the word? Like compelling, but also like satisfying. Basically,
just a satisfying conclusion. Yeah,
like I know where this could all end up, and if it does end up that way, I'll feel
justified giving it my time.
I feel like my time was well spent. I feel like this told exactly like everything. The story is exactly what it needed to say.
Right. Okay.
And you can't really bash that, especially in the modern era. Like film and television.
There's so much uncertainty about what's going to happen, where it's all leading to.
There's like
things,
pointless plot lines, and like constant like pushing to like maybe we could talk in a teaser and thing. Bad Batch like no, it's very focused. It's like Andor. It's like very focused. It's just well written. This is the whole thing. Bad Batch is a great, like when people compare things to Andor, I told you this earlier, it's not because we want more dark gritty spy stuff, it's because we want tightly written, competently written, emotionally and thematically resonant things. Bad Batch is that. Bad Batch is great for that. So that deserves its due course.
Yes.
I'm just sorry I didn't bring
Bad
it up.
Batch. Had it up.
Watch Bad Batch.
In the original trilogy era, it's high on the list.
We still have some to come. Like that, we've debated not even talking about it because technically we've still got another season. But
True.
We thought we'd toss it in, especially we talked about Andor, and people deserve to know about it. It's high up there, definitely. But right, okay. So
to begin the sequel, June, where do we start?
In 2015, J.J. Abrams released Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope.
Okay. To rave reviews.
And
loads of money.
This was largely regarded as a poor idea. Yeah. So Force Awakens.
Yes.
So we're back. It's 2015. We're going to get a new Star Wars film.
Yes. People have been waiting.
And we're getting shoes as we go up to it. We're getting trailers. We're getting like, oh my god, like Han Solo and Chewbacca
and
on
it's
the Falcon.
like those slow trailers that like fade in from black. And it's like play the piano music and they just get you feeling all feels.
And then back then it wasn't even like back then it was like it wasn't like a trope then. I feel like back then it was like, a big weird cliche. It was like, oh my god, like Star Wars is coming back.
Like, it feels like a legacy sequel.
Well, it feels like the legacy sequel. Was there really anything before Force Awakens
that
was
like... That was the point I was going to get to.
Yeah.
Like, what came out... This kind of started a trend of it. Like, what was a legacy sequel before that? We had Jurassic World, sure. What else? I can't really think of anything. After this, we got...
Jurassic World wasn't even... I'm pretty sure Jurassic World was the same time as Force Awakens.
Was it actually? Okay,
I'm pretty sure it was 2015 at the very least, so...
So it's around that same time. Then we get Ghostbusters recently. We had the Halloween trilogy recently. We've got The Exorcist.
Yeah, you're just back off of saying Exorcist. But then, I mean, bro, everything's got a fucking legacy sequel now.
Well, of course.
Like, that's the thing. That's the problem. Oh, that's the problem. The challenge of a legacy sequel is like it's inherently going to be a marred idea,
right?
Because it doesn't really need to happen.
Yes.
Like you've seen the Halloween reboot. Do you think they needed to do it?
No, but I'm always happy to have more like Halloween content.
Because if it's sufficient enough.
Yeah. Well, I would say the first two were enjoyed.
You liked Halloween.
The third one's almost like an episode 8. It's just so different and weird.
So
like I did not expect to see that movie at all.
From what you've discussed about Halloween ends, it's more like episode 9 to be honest, and this is just like, what the fuck is going on here?
I guess.
I get where you're coming from. Like it's so like drastically different. That you didn't expect it. But that's what I'm saying. So like Halloween and Halloween Lives is like this is like good.
Yeah.
So that good, they can still do it.
Yeah.
And
especially that first one. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean it's like a return to form. And when episode 7 came out and kickstarted this whole trend, pretty much Jurassic World notwithstanding, it was like, oh my god,
we are so fucking back.
We're back. Yeah. It's good again. Star Wars looks like lived in, and it's got all these really cool practical effects, and it's got this like funny banter, and it's got like a very like easy to understand traditional story.
Yeah. That's it. It's simple, nice and easy.
And I did really like it.
I really enjoy it too.
I really like Force Awakens.
I've been seeing, we'll probably speak about this when we get to like Ahsoka later on, but I've been seeing loads of clips of the final fight with Finn and then with Rey fighting Kylo, and they're saying how it feels like an actual fight for once in your Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like episode 3 callbacks.
I mean, Christ alive, this is going to sound like an amazing thing because I'm confident in it, but the sequel trilogy, all three of them get lightsaber fights, like,
yes,
dead
I'd
on.
say. I mean, for the discussion that we're going to have on episode 8 has one of the best fight scenes in the entire series in Snoke's throne room.
Yes.
Which is so fire.
I think about that one. I think also about the one on Crate with Luke and Kylo,
That's
which is
good.
less of a fight, but it's more like a choreographed dance. But it's like, do like.
I think Adam Driver's performance in this trilogy is just giving it his all. And
Yeah.
I think his actions as a villain is amazing. That's why I think like he's just so good at playing villains.
We'll mark the points in that, but let's just get out of the way now. Like, if there's one thing to take away from these fucking movies, it was Adam Driver's Kylo Ren, and he was absolutely squandered on 9. But like,
I mean, you could say that.
So
like,
good.
I rate John Boyega as an actor, but you can see from Adam Driver's career after the trilogy, he's obviously more talented than the other two that were in this.
True, it's weird. I feel like Daisy Ridley's played a lot of similar-ish roles. I've not really seen her in anything that's not similar to Star Wars. Like, she came out of Star Wars and she was in like.
I think she's took a break.
Yeah, I've seen her in a couple like dainty things, basically, like Lady Macbeth types.
Aye, look, I feel like John Boyega came out of this.
Was that one with Tom Holland? That was
some,
shit, apparently.
John Boyega came out of this with some like
hang-ups because
I had a bit of that, but like Daisy Ridley, like I didn't see anyone like really saying bad things about her, but I felt like she just took it. She just went away for a bit for herself.
I think it's because you come out and because the problem is, I mean, we'll address this now as well because I don't. I mean, it's probably going to be more relevant for Last Jedi, but like the thing that's really the problem, sort of in a sequel trilogy sphere, is the online response
is vitriolic.
Yeah, the internet was vitriolic to new Star Wars because, as we talked about, it's not George, it's like new, and that's weird. We don't like new.
Yeah.
But then that so gracefully like blends into like modern day. Just the internet's too compressed. We're all too loud, and also, by the way, the Nazis are back. So like it was a bit like, oh man, I'm not sure how Disney's going to handle Star Wars. Yeah. And like I would come and be like, yeah, there's a woman in it now, and I hate women. Everyone was like, yeah, I hate women too. Like
oh so, damn.
Like, Daisy Ridley had to endure a brutal and sustained campaign against her because she's a lady.
Right.
And she was in Star Wars once. John Boyega had to endure it as well. But like, literally everybody who was not, and I don't want to be like a pure dick about it, but everybody who wasn't like a straight white guy.
Yeah.
Like, John Boyega, don't like you. Fucking Kelly Marie Tran, don't like you. Like, Daisy Ridley, woman, like, be gone. Do you know what I mean?
Gone thought.
Fucking Laura Dern, pink hair, be gone.
Oh my god, how could you do that to Laura Dern?
Like, everyone loves Adam Driver because they're all incels. Like, oh, it's just like me FR.
Literally me FR.
I love seething about fucking, like...
I have Darth Vader's helmet in my room too.
Literally. Right, okay. Jesus, sorry, I keep coming back to it because it's how to address it in a smart way. So, Force Awakens is good. I really enjoyed it. I was happy to be there. The energy was all great. A lot of espouse has been said about, like, people were all good in that. John Boyega was great.
So,
Ridley, great. Adam Driver, great. Oscar Isaac, great. I think the legacy characters were great. Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford don't really even miss a beat that much.
Nah.
There's a bit of, like, Harrison Ford being a bit like, okay, it's just, he's back and he's old now.
Aye, but like it's better than Indiana Jones, tell you that.
It's definitely better than Indiana Jones.
And the way they have him die, spoilers, FR, it's great. I really like his move.
Apparently, it's just because he was like, if you're going to bring me back, I need to die in this. I need to like be relevant to the plot.
And they
like,
do it well.
We'll kill you in service of literally like, the main narrative.
Yeah.
And it was like based, and it was based. It was an incredible moment.
Yeah.
I really think, you know, so the thing that mars Force Awakens in my brain is the once it was all said and done.
Right.
We all enjoyed it. We thought this looks really good.
Yeah.
It sounds really good. Sounds really great. John Williams is back, and for God's sake, he's making more Star Wars music.
Okay.
And, like the Resistance theme and Kylo Ren's theme and the First Order theme, they're all really great. And then we all watched it, and then someone turned around and said, that was a bit like A New Hope.
Aye.
And everyone's like, oh yeah, it's literally just A New Hope again.
It is just the beats of New Hope.
But then
with some new like backgrounds in front of it. You know?
It's sort of you swap out some words, like instead of like the Empire, it's the First Order.
Yeah.
And but then
instead of a Death Star, it's Starkiller Base.
But like to this day, I still don't really agree with that. So that's why I've never been able to settle
what's your like argument to that point then?
Well, what's the argument for the point? You tell me why exactly is it like A New Hope? Like yes, the elements are there.
I think that is it. There's the bare bones structure of it is like the same.
Like, well, think about the plot, for example. So what's like the okay, right.
Well, I guess what you're saying is like it doesn't matter if the bare bones are the same because every story's like that.
Well, yeah, you know me, and this is maybe a detriment, but think about the Marvel thing.
Right.
Like, I never really noticed the big deal about how a lot of Marvel movies are quote-unquote similar because I tend to just revel in what makes them unique. Right. If you turn down and say, yes, but if you break it down to, like, the fucking core, it is just X, Y, and Z happens. I'm like, cool, but, like, in this one, X, Y, and Z happened, but he could do Kung Fu. And in this one, X, Y, and Z happened, but he could shrink, and there was ants in it.
Right. And, yeah, I can get what you're saying. Like, the only thing that actually differentiates the story is the dress. And that is what's happening here.
And I still think that while a lot of the similar things happen. Like, yes, character A goes to B and feels this way. I still don't ever feel like nothing's been hardcore repeated.
Right.
I don't watch, like, again, Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, and I don't feel like, yes, okay, you could tell me that, like, this narrative beat happens and this narrative beat. I still feel like each of them were visually and thematically distinct.
Okay, I see your point.
And that is the same for me for 4 versus 7.
Right.
Like, I came out episode 7 and I'm like, that was, like, greatly different. Everyone's like, no, it was exactly like A New Hope. And I'm like, it just wasn't, though. There's a lot more wrapped up in, like,
well, maybe, like, it's the wrong use of the word exactly. Like,
well, some people would argue it was. Some people are like, Slash just episode 4 again. And I'm like, it just isn't.
It's close.
But then, like, how? So, like, I want to look at the stories really briefly. So, like,
okay.
I get it, like, the concept. So, you've got fucking desert planet,
Yep.
hero from, like, not really anywhere.
Yep.
Turns out they're more important.
Yep.
But then, okay, meets Han Solo.
Okay.
Like, okay, that's just a character in the universe. They go from
the
fucking
cantina
to the Death Star.
Yep.
Lost a mentor figure, I guess, but the mentor figure's different. Like, there's a cantina scene. There's a cantina scene in, like, a bunch. Every Star Wars has, like, a bit where there's a bunch of aliens in it. I guess, yes. In this one, it's literally, we go into a place where they're serving drinks and it does a pan around. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But then that's another one where it's a visual marker. It's not like a... We've not lifted like there's like a MacGuffin in this one. There's the map, which is like there's not like a MacGuffin in the one. Okay, there's the Death Star plans. That's what people say. Like, yes, we have the MacGuffin. It needs to go from A to B. But I'm like, yeah, that's just a thing that happens. Fucking a lot more stories than Star Wars Episode 4 and Episode 7 have like person has to take a MacGuffin from A to B. Have you seen fucking films for the 80s? Like, yeah, okay, they do hit a lot of similar beats and enough that I can distinctly say, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, especially like the fucking person living a fucking miserable life on a fucking desert planet, turns out they actually have the Force in them and they have a whole life ahead of them, but like it twists it even further. As we get closer to the end, they twist it more and more and more. Like the whole reflection of like actually Rey has the Force and Kylo Ren's relationship with Han and that's like completely different. It's like almost like Look, I'm Your Father but completely swapped and put at the start of the trilogy. It's like, no, hang on, this is new, this is fresh.
Okay.
So to this day,
I'd say, I think like the ending's a bit different, definitely. Like, that's where more of the differences shine through. But I do think I just do think it is similar.
I just see the beats, I just don't feel it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that could be it. It feels new. It doesn't feel like the old Star Wars.
It just felt like they were lifting just enough to make you go, oh man, mind
Star
Star
Wars. It's like a nod of the hat.
It was something that worked. I believe that I used to swear by this. I feel J.J. Abrams did say like, I'm going to like draw from these things because it's a safe bet. It worked back then. I want to do something that's familiar and comforting and like, yeah.
Well, I
maybe
don't know if
all
it's
that,
like,
but
because he came to this off these trilogy with Star Trek. So I don't know. I've not seen those movies. I don't know how faithful it is to Star Trek because I've not seen Star Trek either. But it could have been like a hangover from that. He was like, I'm going to play this kind of safe because it worked there. It'll probably work here.
I think he really did a duology because Beyond was like 2016. I think that was Abrams.
Right.
But he did the first one. He did Into Darkness. I think Into Darkness was maybe 2012. 2009 and I think 2012. Yeah. I've seen Into Darkness.
Okay.
It's like the only Star Trek thing I've ever seen. I liked it.
Right.
But that's because I've never seen a single other Star Trek thing. And the moment I say to someone, like, would you think my fucking dad?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I mean, it's pish. Like,
Fails.
that wouldn't have happened in Star Trek.
Fails, okay.
That's weird. Why did they do that?
Right.
So, like, what you're saying is actually good. If you're like, okay, well, now you've got another legacy of sucking Star.
Yeah.
We gave you the first Star franchise.
We'll
give you the other one.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up this time.
Okay.
It's like, fine, I'm just going to literally play it. How did it work the first time? Let's just go back to basics. And I think maybe it's because I was satisfied with that at the time.
Right.
Like, they took all this good, comforting stuff, and they're like, by the way, like, what about this, like, interesting new development, and what about this, like, twist, wrinkle, and all that?
Yeah.
I do agree with some of the common criticisms of the movie that the scope's a bit weird. There were too in a sort of a fuss to make it not like the prequels, that they were like, by the way, we're just not really going to look at how the fact that this is 30 years after Return of the Jedi, we're not going to address what the fucking deal is with the galaxy. Like, the fucking centre of the government gets blown up in this movie, and it's a bit like, I didn't know where that was or who any of those people were.
Right.
But you're like, that was literally the fucking centre of the goddamn government.
Right.
A lot of people were like, yeah, they should have maybe said a bit more about what was the state of the galaxy. Like,
but that is explained in a book.
But is that really like a good thing?
No, but that is where you find it.
That's where it becomes like, do you value just the raw
data,
or do you, like, what do you think thematically?
Exactly.
I didn't necessarily care per se, but you know, the more I sit in it, I'm like, I do kind of wish
there
was
that
a bit more like clarification, because it's kind of
exactly.
just like, by the way, the First Order here, and I guess of the Empire again.
Yeah.
And there was even back then, when it was early and it was good, there was still a lot of like, oh, you should read the books, you'll like figure out about like what this character was doing and that, you should read the books. And I was like, well, you shouldn't really need to read the books.
You shouldn't need to, yeah, exactly. You shouldn't need to.
Whatever sticks with some of the books as well. Like the Aftermath trilogy, which kind of felt like that, oh, this is going to be like, this is the Bridging the Gap series, this is kind of like what they were all up to.
Yeah.
That pure has a lot of hints about like, I think what they were trying to imply, like Snoke, for example, would end up being.
Yeah.
And they were like, nah, fuck that. Like, sorry, Chuck Wendig, like, bye. Like, we're just going to do our own thing now.
Yeah.
But like, that's more pedantic. I think because I don't rate it higher because maybe I know it's too familiar.
Right, okay.
I really like Force Awakens. I'm really grateful for how it reintroduced the universe. All the characters are really fun and interesting. I mean, these fun new characters. Like,
yeah, at Poe, I'm like a bit lukewarm. I don't really care, to be honest. Well, Finn, I'm big into. Rey, I'm okay with. Kylo Ren, I'm like, yes, please. So those three, the trifecta there is really good. Yeah. I really enjoyed their kind of where they start. I don't like where they go, but I like where they start. Especially Finn, that's a really cool like intro. You're like, oh shit, we're following a stormtrooper.
Was really well done in the first one.
Then Rey's cool. She's just kind of like, we're just getting to meet her here, and it is kind of like Luke vibes again.
It's like Luke, but she's just lived a much more difficult life. That's the main difference.
I like that. Like we just don't really know what's happening with her parentage. And that she's like not really in this Force thing. She doesn't really what really.
I like the sort of the reflection of the Force was like a mysticism. Like you had like the prequels are like, no, the Force is just a thing. The Jedi are about the second the original trilogy was more like the Force is like, we don't know, the Empire suppressed it. Like what's the deal? This one's like, no, the Force is like a fairy tale. Yeah. Like those things did happen and we know they happen, but they don't really happen as much anymore. So like I like the kind of enamored sort of like audience surrogate, like, yeah, that's my bedtime story.
I don't know if it's like Rey's ability or if it's like just the Force fucking with her, but when she picks up Anakin's lightsaber, it's kind of like an Ahsoka one where she's got like a vision.
Yeah.
It's like or like a Cal where it's like a memory because she sees Luke, and that's obviously a past event.
That's like, I don't think it was supposed to be like psychometry, because I think that's more like supposed to just actively be like, here's an object story. That vision was a lot more like subjective and trippy. She's like Kylo Ren and the Knights are in. She has like the fucking vision at the Cloud City hallway.
I'm still not really sure if that was, that's her power, or that's just like the Force fucking well.
Well, the Force tends to just do that, to be fair. It does show you shit. They've been doing that as like all the way. I mean, the fucking like, Clone Wars has got stuff like that. Like you see visions, what do you trust? Like what's the Force trying to tell you? And it's usually for a purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Although the purpose in this one was, and even back then, it was the J.J. Abrams mystery box.
Yes.
And this would go into just fucking curse us and spite us. That J.J. Abrams made a box and he's like, oh, like, what's the deal with Rey? What's like this flashback mean? Who are the Knights of Ren? Like, what's the deal with Snoke? And it's like, rather than try and do anything interesting, you just introduce a bunch of concepts and let them lie there. And I think some people maybe took certain things the wrong way in regards to movies 8 and 9.
Right.
But I think JJ didn't really like set us up in a good way because he was too eager to just make an interesting thing and be like, oh man, what could that be?
Well, again, the problem is, if we'll go back to the start quite a little bit, the buy goes through in 2014. The movie comes out in 15.
Aye.
We've got 3 directors slated. Not a script's been written yet.
Exactly.
Like,
and they're like,
we're not talking to each other.
Because they didn't delay Rise of Skywalker, so it literally has to hold like 15, 17, 19.
Right, so that's happening. You can't stop it. The train's on the tracks now. So like, if they'd just given it all to Abrams, which I could see happening, we probably would have got at least a more coherent trilogy. I
don't think it would, like, it wouldn't have reached the high, but also wouldn't have reached the low because he could have done the whole thing the whole time.
One of the reasons I don't like 8 is because I think it's so different from where they're going in 7. Like at the end of it, I just don't see how the threads go there. And then when they come back to 9, we're like trying to course back because it's him doing it again, but it seems to go the other way again.
I think I'll disagree with you on that, but like, first to me.
Well, of course, but yeah.
I think 8 just tries its best to extrapolate what was given.
Right. Because the problem is that Rian Johnson's just interpreting.
Rian Johnson's been sat in the chair like, right, there you go, like, deal with that. And he's like, all right, okay, shit.
This is what this means. And
I'll read JJ's notes and like, where'd I go for here?
Exactly. So he watched 7 and went, all right, cool, I can do this then. And Rian Johnson watches 8 and goes, that's not what I wanted you to do.
No,
and then JJ watched it and goes, that's not what I was thinking.
Like, I think the problem is that JJ was unwilling to then resolve that like Ryan did.
Right.
Like JJ was like, okay, well, fuck you, I'm just going to go back and do what I was going to do anyway, and it doesn't matter if it's going to be like clunky, not make sense.
Well, yeah, I think 9 would have been better if they'd followed 8 through.
Aye.
Like, obviously.
Again, that's why like the original script, for like the Trevorrow script for 9 was actually like really great because it took from like all of them. Problem with 9 is when we get there, I feel like 9 spits on everything. There's bits in 9 that just like shit on like even like the fucking originals and the prequels and all that. Like
I was
nothing's
listening to
safe.
a podcast I don't know, a few weeks ago now, it was RKG, the boys, shout out, and they were speaking about how it's ridiculous that they can't remember the ending of like one of the biggest franchises of all time.
Oh God,
Like,
I
just don't know what happened.
I just don't like the ending's
It
just
doesn't
like
matter.
a fucking wet fart. It's
Exactly.
like, okay. Who cares what happened? What was the point?
That's it.
What was supposed to feel? We got 7. We're still on 7.
Still 7. 7's actually good, guys. Watch 7. Have a
7's
good time.
good.
Have a ball.
Watch
8.
7.
You know, form your opinion about it.
Watch 8 and form your opinion, absolutely.
Because it's very Marmite. You know what I mean? It's love or hate it. I feel like there's very few people in the middle of this film.
Yeah.
But 7,
maybe.
we'll close
I
out
think,
7.
But I think I don't want to talk about that because as an 8 fan, I kind of want to like try and encourage.
If there is a grey area, I think I'm closer to it than most.
Maybe,
because I have things
I've
I
talked to
dislike
people that are
about
much
it.
worse than you, obviously.
Well, of course. I'm not like I hate women.
Aye.
Because I do. Obviously,
Minority
you know,
spotted. Pew!
Yeah.
Like shooting lasers at his eyes.
I do
Boycott
think,
episode 8.
I do think Cantobite sucks though, JK.
See, I think the problem is what's the problem with 8 is that the issues are themselves have been made more polarizing than they need to be.
Yeah.
There's facets. For example, another good example is Kylo killing Snoke. Spoilers.
Yeah.
In 8. So like
I like it.
I like so 7 introduces Snoke as like the leader.
Yeah,
and I'm like, cool.
We're here.
I'm sure
Let's
we'll learn
see where
about
this
him, but
goes.
he's just the Emperor guy.
I remember you saying like we'll probably find out more about him in books.
Yeah,
Like,
you'll
at
probably
the
get a
time.
book in that. He's just the Emperor guy.
Aye.
Whatever needs to be done. And then in 8, they're like, oh no, we're going to kill him. Like, Kyle's going to take over, and then Kyle's going to like become leader. And to
Makes
refer
sense.
back to, again, I'm going to talk about this probably more as well, but this video by Neril about The Last Jedi,
Yeah.
he's like, the problem is people were like, oh, Kylo killing Snoke is a cheap subversion of expectations.
Nah.
But you're actually supposed to expect that to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's like the apprentice killing the master. Like
Yeah.
fucking Palpatine did it
It's
in
like-
Middle Ages.
It's like Kylo's whole thing from 7 at least to the end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he wants to be Vader.
Yeah.
So what does Vader not do? Doesn't kill his family. What does he do in 7? Kills his dad. What does he do in 8? Kills the Emperor.
Literally. He's like, I'm going to take control
It's
now.
like, I'm
assuming
just going to be
complete
better
authority.
than my idol here.
There's the closest to subversion. It's more the, like, he does the big kills the bad guy, but
Yeah.
but I'm now also the bad guy.
Yeah.
I'm not killing the bad guy to save you. I'm killing the bad guy to become the bigger bad
To
guy.
become the bigger bad guy.
But people are like, no. That's it's different. It's weird. That's not what happened in the originals, and that's wrong. Oh, and it's like it's not really as polarizing as an issue as I think you think it is. Not you, like
Yeah.
people. Oh God. Okay. See, you can. This is the problem with the sequel trilogy talk because there is. It's such
Well,
a unified.
Yeah.
The thing
It's
isn't
like-
unified, but
aye.
they all. Sort
It's
of
like you
mesh.
can't really talk about one without talking about the others, and you
Even
can't
though
really
the people-
mention the overall properly without discussing each of them.
Yeah, you have to explore every facet. They all explode out a wee bit.
Yeah. And that again speaks to the mess of it probably, let's be honest.
That's, in my opinion, that's the biggest weakness of 7 is that, like, even back then there was just too much that was like, okay, there's a lot of like intrigue here, but the fear was always like, there's a lot that should be explained. There's a lot that needs to be explained.
But
Back
at the,
then,
but, the,
right
but
at
at the end of 7, we're not thinking, oh my god, can they do this? We're thinking that's really cool. I hope they explore it all.
It's true. It's true.
So it's not a detraction at that point.
It's not distraction at that point, but
It
I don't
is
think
now
we
in
should,
retrospect.
Yeah, I don't think we should make that. We should remove that for 7 though.
I
We
see,
should
yeah.
say like JJ maybe should have
Well,
been
yeah,
a bit more
now
thrifty
with
about
time.
writing here.
Yeah.
Like the mystery box approach just didn't work.
Yeah. Now with hindsight, it's like, well, obviously that did not work, you know?
I'll give him the credit, yeah, of like now in hindsight, and like maybe he maybe thought things would go differently than they did.
Uh-huh.
But it's also like, come on, JJ, like maybe just don't write fucking drastically open-ended stuff unless you know for a fact you're going to be able to deliver on that, and like your vision will be like realised. Unless you yourself knew, like, forgot. Oh, I know you didn't know what was in the box when you opened them. I mean, the Knights of Ren was a throwaway line, and everyone's like, "Why didn't Ryan Johnson put it in The Last Jedi?" And then they put them in episode 9, and they were just like some guys.
Aye, there's more guys.
They're a cool leitmotif.
Sick,
They're
bro.
just like guys.
Album cover. Let's go.
Cool, thanks.
One
Watch
of
it.
them's,
Kuruk's coming. Or Aplek.
Oh, bro. One of them's like,
One of them's got a big fucking hammer.
aye, sure.
Bro, the Knights of Ren are interesting in everything except the movies.
That, yeah.
The comics, oh, by the way, they're actually like a biker gang, and
And a based.
fucking like they've got one guy who leads them, and they had like they showed up and they cameoed in like a Lego holiday special for Halloween, and fucking Christian Slater voices the leader.
Bro.
I'm like, that's infinitely cooler than anything J.J. Abrams did with them.
Yes. He had them on a rock or something.
Literally.
In the rain.
Ryan Johnson famously, someone was like, why didn't you make the Praetorians the next
Right.
round?
Yeah.
And Ryan was like, because like I didn't know what JJ was planning with them, and I didn't want to just chuck them in unceremoniously and have them like die.
Yeah.
And JJ was like, shit,
I was going to mess with
I'm
him.
just gonna do that. Like,
Yeah. I had something for them.
He had nothing for them.
In the end, yeah, but like
Did he have something?
he
That's
might
what I'm
have.
asking.
I don't know.
For all I know, he knew the whole Emperor Palpatine thing.
Maybe.
Although they were saying like fucking Daisy Ridley's going on like fucking talk shows with Josh Gad. Like, by the way, like they were rewriting fucking Rise of Skywalker up to the last minute. So maybe JJ
They
never knew
probably
about
are.
the Palpatine thing.
Well, yeah.
They were like, maybe it was an Obi-Wan thing. Maybe it was a
Well,
Luke
it does
thing.
not
maybe it was a
shock
Palpatine
me
thing.
that the worst movie that ever made was getting written on the day. That doesn't surprise me.
God, it's just like I get Disney Press doing that. I do think surely like how did you get to this? Well, we're not there yet.
Yes.
I mean, we've said so much, but let's compress.
Yeah. So 7. Final thoughts.
It's good. It's a restart. In retrospect,
it's safe but good.
it's safe. Yeah. It doesn't boggle my mind. It's not going to go higher in my rankings.
Yeah.
But it was
solid.
It was solid. Yeah. It was reassuring. It was comfortable. Everything looked and sounded how you wanted it to.
Yeah.
It just
this is the Star Wars you remember.
In hindsight, it's a bit more like okay, maybe 7 could have did a bit more legwork in retrospect.
Yeah, but it wasn't that long. How long was it? Like 110, maybe.
Oh yeah, I think it was like.
So it's like it's pretty tight. We don't have a lot of time to mess with.
Sure, I don't think it meanders.
8's pretty long. 8's longest, right? 8's the longest, or is 9 the longest?
Oh, I don't actually know.
Like out of them all,
8 does actually feel a bit long, and that's as someone who loves it and loves the length.
Yeah, I think that's probably a mandate from Disney. Like we don't want this to be hugely long, JJ.
Yeah, no.
Like,
last year that is actually the longest film, 2 hours and a half.
Yeah, so we want this to be like
the other longest
tight.
film, 2:16 for Force Awakens,
right.
2:22 for Rise of Skywalker, which is the same as Attack of the fucking Clones.
That what I say that it does feel long. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then that's because there's a lot of fucking clunge in the middle. Well, no, not clunge, because then that's like
There's a lot of sand, bro.
there's a lot of like shit Anakin nonsense, and then there's a lot of like fucking Obi-Wan's cool and like Anakin kills Sandpool, and that's cool.
Cameron Owens.
Right. Okay.
So what's after 7?
So after episode 7 was Rogue One.
Okay, right, and we like Rogue One.
I like Rogue One, yeah.
That was cool.
And then after Rogue One was Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
So this is where the timelines diverge, or opinions diverge.
This is where like this is the fucking
fork in the road.
This is the critical mass moment.
I would agree, yeah. This is where a franchise lives or dies.
To put it into summary, right, The Last Jedi came out. It was by a different director. It was written and directed by Rian Johnson.
Of Looper.
Looper fame.
Yes.
And
now Knives Out.
Knives Out, absolutely exceptional films. Rian Johnson was basically given Force Awakens and all of JJ's notes, and he's like, go for it. And he looks at it and goes, he's like, right, fine, okay, well, I have some ideas. I'll just take where everyone is, and I'll just try and stretch it along, and I'll ask questions about like who's where and why. And also, what can I do to actually make this interesting? The critical thing for 8 was Ryan said, what is the hardest thing for people to hear?
Yeah.
Because that will give them the most character challenge and thus prompt the hardest character growth.
Right.
And he basically had a bunch of ideas, and he confidently committed to like taking things in a bit of a rambunctious direction.
Definitely commits to some stuff, bro.
So he splits the party up. He has Rey's
on our island at the end of 7.
Yeah, so at the end of 7, Rey's like, okay, now I need to go find Luke Skywalker.
She does.
So why is Luke Skywalker, why is he like on an island where nobody can find him?
Yeah.
Why is he like not really
messing with
present?
anything?
Like, why didn't he come back to save him? Like, did he not feel like the Force?
Why did they let the First Order rise to power?
Why is he in that position? Like, then you have to go back to like, what are the Resistance up to? Like, okay, well, logically, they've just blown up. At the end of 7, they blow up the big super weapon. So much like in the originals, like how Empire starts, that did expose them.
Yes,
so
we're on a war now.
They're going to face struggles, and they're going to be pushed to their wits' end.
Yeah.
Kylo Ren's we're gonna have to explore his developing like trauma, because it's clearly at the end of 7 he was like, yeah, I killed my dad, like I'm kind of fucked up about that, how am I feeling about that? And yeah, so it sort of moves through a sort of series of scenarios where these characters are sort of put through it, and they all sort of have to learn and grow a bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the end, a lot of sort of things have happened. Kylo Ren actually kills Snoke maybe a bit earlier than he would have thought and supplants him. Luke is sort of actually a bit of a curmudgeon. He's quite angry and grumpy, and has sort of defeatist tendencies.
Jaded.
Like, the Resistance sort of take, much like Empire Strikes Back, but arguably worse. They get really fucking properly done through the ringer. They slip up, they trip up, they put their trust in the wrong people, they make mistakes, and they sort of really completely lose it, but they are saved by Rey at the end. When I start to describe it, nothing really stands out as deeply like controversial, other than like...
Well, it's not the beats of the story that are controversial.
Well, would you say
I think it's the characterization.
But then what characters?
I don't think Luke's where he should be.
Okay.
I don't think Finn dies. Finn drops off a cliff in this film, I think. Like, none of his... I don't think he's where he's going to go from the end of 7.
Okay.
Poe's about the same. He's fine. Rey is like... I don't know. I feel like I'm indifferent again to Rey in this film.
Okay.
But I think that's more like a Luke thing. Like, if Luke was more how I think Luke would be, I'd probably like Rey more. And Kylo Ren is, like, again, more, like, I'm liking him more. I think Kylo Ren's, like, okay in this whole trilogy, to be honest. Like, I don't think he's
Kylo Ren's got a solid through line for the whole goddamn thing.
Aye, that's what I mean. He
Up
seems
until,
like
right at the end of 9 where they just sort of forget to have him in the movie.
Aye, right.
Like,
his line seems the most followable, easily. I personally, as well, don't like the humour in this film.
Okay, well, that's
subjective. Or, you know, I think it's symptom of Disney at this time, because, like, that's when Guardians 2's happened, Ragnarok's there or thereabout, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think shit's getting too funny here at this point. We're trying too much jokes.
Well, I
now,
think
that could also be Rian Johnson, and it works in, like, Knives Out.
Yeah, I mean, he is funny, so it's like, there is a degree of that. I don't know. I always thought Last Jedi was quite funny.
I think
not every joke lands, but then not every joke lands in
course.
every film.
Yeah.
Basically, I think I'm easier to just hone in and, like, if I find a joke funny, I'm easier to just be like, well, that was funny.
I guess, right?
I don't want to be like, well, I didn't find it funny, so it was the worst movie ever made, because...
No, well, I'm not one of those people, luckily.
Exactly. Some people do, and that's...
Exactly. I think as a consumer media, and I consume more things that, like, are like this, that are considered kind of polarising, I think that, like, I have, like, preconceptions of what I want something to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone has that to an extent.
Yeah.
But if it's something like Star Wars, it's like a known property, it kind of permeates, like, the consciousness. I have, like, an idea what a Star Wars would be, and I think my idea of Star Wars has less humour than most people would assume, and that's probably why one of the reasons I don't like this film as much, because I feel like there's humour everywhere, and I don't think it should have that much as a Star Wars thing. But that's me, not, like...
No, of course.
That's just my...
I think I just struggle to understand what people are really talking about. I can only think of, like, a couple of, like, quote-unquote funny moments.
Right. But, like, say, for instance, the moment where the dyad and, like, Kylo Ren's topless talking to her,
mm-hmm.
It just takes me to the scene when she's like, why not a top on? That just takes me to the scene.
Okay.
It breaks it for me.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Stuff
that's
like
you gave me an example. That's one of the ones where I just like, well, I just do think it's funny, and you
like,
just don't. That's like
that's fair. That is fair. I mean, I can't really like argue that.
Well, as you say, you're not. The problem is you're not. You're speaking through the lens of personal preference and like how you relate to. You're not saying, as I said, you're not being like, well, I didn't think it was funny, ergo it's bad. It's like badly made. It's like, well, no, you just didn't think it was funny, and that, as you say, doesn't necessarily jive with your preconceived notion.
Yeah,
of
what I would expect a Star Wars to be.
Preconceived notions are the thing for this.
I think they're unavoidable.
This is now.
I don't even think they're necessarily bad.
Not necessarily. It depends on just what you do with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think first off, you go into this and you do think, oh, what's Luke Skywalker going to be like?
Yeah.
I mean, Luke is really the centre of everything.
Okay.
Now this is the beginning of my issue with Luke Skywalker.
Right, as a character.
As a character, and it's because of the fans mostly, and it's because of legends and because of like years of built up. Luke Skywalker has become deified.
No, you can continue this point, but I will say I had no idea of the Legends content before this film, and I still did not like him.
That's completely fair. I mean, and I suppose I'll separate, like, in terms of like hardcore online strata.
That's probably where the more of the vitriol comes from, because they're like so invested in this other one.
Yeah, they're like, I've got this pitch perfect idea of looking at it. I mean, okay, maybe you don't necessarily have legend, but you still have. You just said you have an idea in your head of
like, if you were to say, right, Luke's going to show up in 8, I'd be like, oh, cool, I think I know what he's been doing since 6. I can kind of think about it.
Exactly, and you're drawing based on your conclusions for the character at that point. And you're not as bad as others, but I think in general, there's just a lean by like both fans and now, unfortunately, the text to deify him and sort of be like, no, he is like, he's the cool, super amazing guy who's like the best and he won all the battles and we love him. And I'm not saying you think like that personally, I'm just saying like that's the general push. Mandalorian and like Book of Boba Fett and all, and probably the fucking Dave Filoni movie are all going to be like that.
Right.
To me, I love Luke in this movie because I am a big enjoyer of just deeply understandable character stuff, and I think I was happy to be a bit challenged.
Right.
Even I came at this movie being like, oh, it's Luke Skywalker. He's like the cool fucking Superman hero.
Aye.
And basically, they come into this movie and Luke's not like that, but understandably to me, it's because The Last Jedi, where I think the real depth of that they go is because when we're all talking about character arcs and that went in a bit of a different direction and stuff, it's because Last Jedi was like, we're going to actually really try and stamp ourselves as like a carry-on, as like we are pulling from these things that happened and we're not skipping a beat and we don't want to repeat it. So like Luke's coming at this and he's actually like Jade, he's actually suffered and made mistakes, and a lot of people are like, well, that's not really what Luke Skywalker would have done in my head. And I'm like, yeah, in your head, yes, if you look at it in an emphatic terms of like the character's direction, Like,
Right.
as a human being, as a functional character. It's a realistic and layered character. That's why I like it. Last Jedi doesn't pretend that Luke's invulnerable. So, like, I guess, okay, I'm not going to argue and I'm not going to critique here. Like, I just, to talk about this exact point with this example, what is it you think is wrong with Luke?
I think it's like his reaction to his trauma. Like, so the traumatic thing that happens to him is he builds a Jedi school and then he finds himself one night standing over Kylo Ren, ready to kill him. And then he realises that's fucking dumb. Why would I do that? Kylo Ren freaks out and, like, destroys the school.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'd, like, abandon the cause. He might never open a school again, but I don't think he'd, like, completely hermit himself away from everyone after that event.
Okay. So, that's like a rational enough perspective.
Okay.
I think... No, well, when you're not wrong, that's what I'm not going to be the guy who's like, no, you're wrong. My interpretation is right. Listen to me. Right. The first thing that, like, it piques my interest is how we look at the individual moments.
Right. So what? So
like, Luke stands over Kylo ready to kill him. No, he doesn't. He's basically sat there, as Luke says it in the film. He's sitting there feeling like, oh, by the way, I can fucking feel the most evil, villainous vibes possible coming from Kylo.
Right.
He goes to see him, thinks for a minute, oh fuck, he's probably going to literally destroy the world and kill everybody I love, and debates it for a second.
Yeah.
And that's completely different than, like, what you're saying, but also what people online are saying more extremely. It's not like he went in, well, like, say, like, fuck you!
Yeah. I mean, I've probably misspoke there because I don't remember it as clearly as you.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, the problem is I'm going to remember this so concretely.
Because it's your favourite film and you
but
have
also
to defend it.
In the trenches defending it. Well, the problem with Last Jedi shit is that, like, you are at least fair and equitable and work your way through it, but, like, a lot of people in the online criticism nonsense were very much on the edge of, like, I'm just going to willfully miswatch the movie. Like, people are like, oh, there's the whole Rashomon thing of how you see Kylo and Luke's thing for three perspectives.
Right.
So you see, like, Luke thinking about it the first time and he's
then
actually completely innocent and Kylo's a villain. Then Kylo does it and looks like a fucking mad-eye psycho.
Yeah.
And then looks like the one that's probably more truthful, but it's like, oh, it's a bit grey. People are like, no, like, Kylo's one must have been right, where Luke's a fucking psychopath waving a lightsaber about, and I'm like, the movie just looks you in the eye and goes, that's not correct. So yeah, so, like, with your discussion of what you say about how you thought maybe should this, maybe should that, it's because of that thing of, like, extrapolating from Luke's character, extrapolating from him as a real living person. Do you know what I mean? I get the whole, I'd hope maybe, like, Luke wouldn't turn his back on the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's because to understand it, you have to really process, like, the actions and the thoughts from a very us perspective, like a real human being looking at that. So, like, if you have to really conceive of the fact that Luke fucking tried his best to really resurrect the Order with what little he could.
Yeah.
But then completely was absolutely overwhelmed and bombarded with just, like, by the way, Kylo Ren's going to fucking blow it all up. And then trying to stop it, having that one bad thought.
Yeah.
But then that one bad thought is also the thing that just makes it happen anyway. And you're hit with the layers of, like, you have been predicting a humongous tragedy. And in the 1 second where you had a thought that you thought would stop it was actually the thing that made it all happen anyway. And you're looking down the barrel of the gun. You've now put the ammo in the gun and loaded it when you were desperately trying to avoid it. And also, like, Luke having learned all these things, like, it's understandable that he would sort of start to see, like, well, I mean, the Jedi was that great. I've fucking done the reading. So I can have to be better. But saying all that, so I find that to be deeply compelling, and that because I really like the idea of he's like a layered, textured character. He's not, like, above it all. People are saying, like, Luke shouldn't, like, have doubted and flicked his lightsaber on.
No, like, I get the doubt.
Like, he does it in the old movies, and then people are like, yeah, but he got over it in the old movies. I'm like, yes, but in the real fucking world, you don't just have one bad thought and then never have a bad thought again. Here's a thing that I think is more interesting for our discussions, because ultimately it's going to boil down to personal preference.
Right.
Think of it more in terms, and I'm not saying forgive Last Jedi for this per se. What could Rian Johnson have done, considering he had Force Awakens, and in Force Awakens, Luke has put himself in the most difficult to find place and is not doing anything to help anyone. He didn't come back to save Khan. He's either not felt it or he's just patently refused.
Right.
And I'm like, it kind of like the idea that Ryan had to go, well, if Luke's put himself in an incredibly unfavourable situation and he's not done anything to help, there has to be a good reason for that. It couldn't just be like, oh, right, you found me. I was actually just secretly here the whole time and I was actually waiting for you, because that would be silly and, like, too tropey and too, like, well, Ray's like, that's exactly what we wanted to hear. That's the whole thing. You want to go for what you don't want to hear because it challenges your character.
Right.
If Luke was like, oh, it's me, I'm your secret dad, Luke Skywalker, and you are actually the new superhero. Here's a lightsaber, go do it.
Right.
Like, that would have just been silly. I would have hated that.
I think there's probably in between that I would have liked more. But, like...
I get what you're saying. I just can't visualize it because seeing, in terms of both what was given to Ryan and then Ryan's like, I need to make a compelling story here because honestly, the biggest weakness of The Last Jedi, and this is going to sound so fucking up my ass, this is, I promise, probably going to be the most dicky thing I'm going to say tonight.
Wow.
I think it just was too good. It was too much of an attempt at like, I have to make a really compelling, moving thing, and I thought it was, but the problem was is that like, a lot of people didn't really expect that. And it's not really like kind of it stands out to me in Star Wars because it's so fucking rich in narrative and it's got like such a specific like, no, we're gonna say some really dramatic things about like fucking like, you know, like mental suffering and like fucking like the consequences of failure and like the weight of mistakes, and there's also like some very explicit dialogue about like the geopolitical situation, which people were like moaning about how there was no politics in 7, but then 8 comes along. There's a whole bit in Canto Bight where they talk about like warmongering and like the, you know, war profiteering and that, and it's like, no, I don't want to hear that though. I don't care about that. I really respect what he took from the movie, from The Force Awakens, and how he pushed it out, and how he was like, I'm going to push it in a really compelling way. And I acknowledge it's different. Like, it's definitely like, I wouldn't have expected that going into it.
Yeah.
But for me, that's then where I accept it and love it, because I'm like, this is just so like rich and compelling compared to like what it could have been. It could have been just a bit schlockier. I'm not saying it's impossible there was a mid-ground. Like when you're saying there could have been an in-between.
There is. That's the movie I wanted.
But I just can't imagine what that is in a way that feels compelling.
Right. I mean, it could be. We just can't picture it.
Exactly. That's the one thing. It's like I'm not saying you can't dislike or like Last Jedi because of it, but like if there is an alternative, no one can really understand what it would have looked like. The only things I've seen are like just they fill in the gap with shit. They're like, no, why wasn't The Last Jedi like all of the old characters in a spaceship together, fucking flying about? Why didn't like geriatric Luke Skywalker do a backflip and force pull an AT-AT down?
Right. Well, I didn't quite need that.
So I just don't care about that. Like, I just hate that. Okay, so like Luke, yeah, look, I mean, he holds a lot of the middle, and I think because he's the one that's the most challenging for folk because of his legacy status. Finn, you brought up Finn, and you don't know, like, Finn. So that's another one.
Where do you think Finn is in the 7? Finn is a stormtrooper who can use a lightsaber quite effectively.
Well, that's not why I would have taken for that at all.
Nah. So you don't think he's like set up to be some sort of like Force Jedi?
No,
thing?
And I hate J.J. Abrams for this, for deluding us into thinking he is, by putting Finn in all the marketing to be like a bait and switch, where you see him in the lightsaber on the marketing, you see him in all the trailers, and then right at the end, it's, actually it was Rey. That's the best I got out of the Finn Jedi ship. It was like it was a bait and switch to make you think it was like a guy and it was actually a girl.
I don't know why we can't have both.
I don't necessarily think we can't have both, but at the end of 7, like, Finn wields a lightsaber with embarrassing proficiency. You said he does it quite well. He gets his fucking ass beat, bro. The guy's in a coma.
But it seemed okay, man.
He was in a fucking coma.
Bro, Din Djarin cannot wield the darksaber, okay? I have seen that man try to swing that shit.
That's because he's shit his ass. Fuck Din Djarin.
And you know I'd say Finn was better than a lightsaber.
Finn Djarin. It was fucking Bo-Katan Rey who actually was the real one to get it and use it.
Based Bo-Katan, let's be honest.
I like that revealing that. I never really watched the fucking footage of that and just expected it's going to obliquely has to be Finn as a Jedi or a Force user. So at the end of 7, he gets like fucking his ass beat. And I'm not saying it couldn't have been a Force thing, but really, again, this is Ryan going like, okay, well, what have I got? I've got Finn, who's a stormtrooper, who then like sort of
broke the conditioning,
and then started to sort of work rebellion adjacent to get Rey. Although, as he points out in that fucking movie, he's like not about the rebellion or anything. He's like, no, I'm like just here to do Rey. Like, I'm gonna help you guys get the Starkiller base.
She's my friend.
Personally, I'm doing this for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
So Ryan's like, I've got this, I've got him in a coma, and I know they did the Force thing, but like Rey's now the Force thing. That was the point at the end of that movie. Is that, oh no, like Rey, she's got the Force. Eyes there, she's the way to look.
Okay.
So he's like, okay, well, what have I got? Well, let's look at the fact that he was like not really into the rebellion, and let's just get him into the rebellion. That was like what his arc was. His arc was like, okay, like stop being selfish. Like now we're gonna make you face the fact that you should probably actually get involved with the fight because apathy is like a bad thing. Which was Force Awakens was all about that. Finn was gonna run away, and they're like, no, you can't run away. Like you need to stand up and fight. So this one was more about that. Canto Bight. I agree with the sentiment that it feels distinctly separate from everything else.
Yes.
And it has its own sort of like messaging in that, but it's all in service of like Finn's narrative. It's to give Finn that character
like an actual thing to do.
It's to put him in a place and be like, right, you were like just callously flying through. You were thinking of yourself, you were thinking of your friend, but you weren't really doing anything with the bigger picture. So fuck you. Think about the bigger picture. There's fucking kids out here getting fucking tortured, and there's like war profiteering and shit. And then they throw in Benicio del Toro, but like, no, Finn, fucking just be like apathetic. Don't get involved. That's like fine. Like it's fun and it's fine. It's cool to challenge him to make. Oh god, like should I care? Like should I get invested with this and should I get involved?
Right.
And that's what that whole sort of thing leads to. And also it leads up to like if he does make that decision to like, you know what, I am a rebel. I'm like involved. I've seen the sort of like the boundaries, and I've also seen like what an apathetic person in there, like, you know, he watches Benicio like be apathetic, mate, I don't care, but then at the end decide to be a dickhead and screw them all over for his own gain. And Finn's like, well, I don't want to be that. If I can be apathetic, I'll be a fucking dickhead who like fucks people over because I care more about my weird fucking neutrality than I do about just making an emphatic statement. And that's like, yeah, it brings him into the fold. It puts him in as like a full force. Like, no, he's actually part of the rebellion now. He's doing something. I don't even necessarily think they could have never kept him as a force user. I just think maybe that's like the one fault is like Ryan never really done anything with that at all. They could have maybe had it in hints. But again, it's another thing where I don't feel like it was up to him. I feel like he was like, well, if I'm going to do the whole force user thing, I've got Rey on the island with Luke. Like, she's the force user. I got to put my energy there.
Right.
Like, what would he have done with Finn in The Last Jedi that would have been meaningful enough? Luke's with Rey doing their own thing.
Well, I think the story's different if we're doing more with Finn.
But then is that Last Jedi's fault, or surely that's up to Force Awakens? Force Awakens puts him in a coma and puts Rey on the island. What does Rian Johnson do to rectify that? Just have him get in the coma and just, I gotta go to the island too quickly because I can use the Force actually as well.
It doesn't need to go to the island, but I don't know. He's Leia there. I don't know.
But then this is the Leia thing is going to become an issue in 9. The idea that Leia's like a Force person never really sits well with me. The fact that she can use the Force is great, and like the Mary Poppins thing in this, I fucking hate when people bitch about that. And I'm sorry if you don't like it. This will be the one where I say like, fuck off. Like, okay. See, the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's a bit of like a weird shot.
It does look dumb, I
think it looks dumb. It's just a bit like jarring, but like the mood of this scene is like, holy fucking shit, Leia's using the fucking Force. And she's literally fucking pulling herself through space. It's like, yeah, you have to get past the visual hiccup. But like, in retrospect, it's a very powerful moment. I guess it's just, how could you visualize it slightly differently? Yeah. The point of it is though, like that was like great and fine because it reflected Leia using the Force. But Leia herself has never been about the Force. She's been like political. She's been like a face of the people. She's been more about like justice. You know, like when she finds out she's like the in Return of the Jedi, she's like, oh, by the way, you're like also my sister and like Darth Vader's daughter. And she's like, oh, Pog. And then she almost like doesn't care after that point. She's kind of like, oh, okay.
She's got shit to do, you know.
I know in the book, I know that's another books thing where it's like, I know Leia was like big in the Force in the books, but like there's the Disney books, like Bloodlines and that, were actually a bit more like Leia's like, you know, I've looked in it, I've learned a bit, but like I don't really need to worry about it. That's why he turned around in episode 9. It's like, no, actually, Leia's like a full teacher now. She has like her own lightsaber and she can like fucking completely like just train Rey.
It's a bit extreme, yeah.
So like maybe like Leia could have had advice for Finn, but really like how much could you have mined that without Luke being present or without Rey being in a position where she was like wise enough to instruct him?
Well, again, I don't know, but it's not
the
film we got.
In your head, you're like, the movie does exist out there, but you just can't really visualize it. And this is the fucking the clash at the center of the whole thing. Is that like, yeah, I mean, for whether you like it or not, like it's sort of like, in my head, Rian Johnson not only made the best of what he could, but he really was like, I'm going to push it in an inches away, because this whole idea of like the movie's there, but we don't know what it looks like, that's like a weird thing to say to me, because like, if you can't think of what the movie looks like, does that movie exist? And you think, well, in your head, you'd like to believe there's a version of this movie where the things happen that you want them to, but you can't really concretely understand what that would look like and how they would get there. So can it actually exist?
I don't know. I feel like it probably could, but I don't know. I'm not the guy to write it. Duh.
Get Scorsese on this.
Scorsese would slap this shit up, man, I'm telling you. Like, this shit would be amazing.
Scorsese hates Star Wars. He talks about Marvel all the time in superhero movies, but what does he think about Star Wars?
He's probably right on it, man. Like, because it's not taking up as much of the cinematic discourse as Marvel is. Marvel is like...
Marvel's always there. There's always a Marvel.
It's always there, and to him it's destroying cinema. And not destroying, it's affecting cinema in a negative way. I would agree to that extent, yeah. But Star Wars hasn't been like that level.
Star Wars takes its time. I mean, that was always conceived like a sort of a linear narrative type thing. So there was always the guarantee to be more as well, but it was always like woven into it. Aye, this is the where we'll reach the most difficult in the debate. We were predicting like proper like suffocating each other, like you always say.
Well, I
Each
mean,
other, me shouting at you, which we were worried about.
oh yeah, but I never thought it would happen. Well,
Nah, we
because
joked, but
I'm not very good at like I have opinions on these films, and I would love to like give you some crazy essay-esque take on them. I just don't have that in me,
them, but you just don't
and I don't
have that
I don't
wrap around.
have the recall so good on them that I could do it. Unless I'd seen me yesterday, I might have a bit more to kind of critique and say to you.
Exactly.
I've seen it twice. The two times I've seen it, the same issues that I feel have been there. I don't see them changing unless I watch it again and maybe like with some different eyes.
No, of course.
But that's my feeling on it. Twice, two watches, I'd say that's enough. I've given it to like see it.
Give it 2 separate watches,
you know. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm not saying a discussion wouldn't like ease me up on it or
I'd
change
like
it a bit.
Hope I could like a lot of issues I've heard online about Last Jedi, either from willful or willful or like accidental ignorance.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of things that can be resolved by just like talking about it and like listening and that. I'm not saying that's the same for you.
Right.
I'm just like eager to like talk about it. Because if there's like a hang up you're having that's like could be like understood, even I'm not trying to get you to like it as well. Just if you could be like a bit more like, do you know what? Fair enough. Even just to warm you on it.
That's what I mean. Like I'm in the grey area because like a lot of it, it's just there.
Yeah.
The comedy's just there. I don't personally like it, but it's just there. Rey's like fine. I don't think she's like the best character ever after this. Finn, sure. I don't think it's where he goes. It should go. But that's like it's just there again. Poe is just there. I don't really care. He's like okay.
Oh man, that's one that annoys me. That's like a personal preference thing. Cause like I think Poe does really great.
I mean, Poe's arc's like, oh, I'm like hotshot the best. Give me like the chance. No, we're shutting you down. Then he goes and does shit and it fucks up, right?
Well, do you know what? I keep forgetting to really wrap it into it. This all sort of looks at the fact that this movie has a fucking critical theme, and it's failure. It's like what failure does to a person, how you address failure, what you do with yourself. It's so fucking critical that Yoda from Star Wars shows up in this movie, and he looks directly into the camera and goes, the theme of this movie is that people fail sometimes. I'm not saying you don't get that, so I just like, some people seem to not get that. Some people think the message of this film is, let the past die, kill it if you have to, which is the thing that the baddie says when he's trying to be the baddie. And I'm like, really, you think that's the theme? Not when Yoda looks into the camera and goes, no, you idiot. Remember what happened in the past and reflect on it and do better in the future.
That makes sense, I guess, yeah.
Like, I that's another thing where I really like where everything goes because it all ends up in that. Like, Poe wasn't really that big a deal in the first movie anyway. He was like a cool guy.
He
had a great instant friendship with Finn. That's a fucking fantastic scene. Everyone says that and I agree. They originally planned to just fucking kill him. And they're like, no, people like Oscar Isaac, we'll keep him about. And then at the end, he was like, yeah, I'm also here and I'm a cool pilot. This movie's like, okay, like, what actually is it about, though? Like, okay, cool, he's a cool pilot, so that's he's clearly got an ego, whether that's good or bad. And this movie's like, by the way, you need to, like, sort of, like, be cool and level-headed and not, like, fucking dick about because you will get people killed. Cool. That's shown at the start, and, like, he then gets forced to sort of deal with that through Leia and then Holdo. Did you know there's like debate about like how Holdo's like why didn't Holdo just immediately tell Poe the plan?
I mean, I don't know. That is a good point. Why not?
Why though?
Why would she not let everyone involved know the plan?
Well, why would you tell like people who just don't need to know? You're in a military situation. Poe's just literally lost all of your bombers because he didn't listen to command. You're in a situation where literally like you're all about to fucking die. And you're like, okay, should I like tell the guy what I'm doing who could probably drum up a bunch of nonsense, who like probably is going to disagree with me, which he does. When she finally does let me know, he's like, I don't agree with this, I'm going to create issues. So it's a bit like she's kind of vindicated.
I guess, but
a lot of people kind of headcanon, like maybe she was afraid of spies. You can add that in there. I don't even think that needs to be there.
Yeah, I was about to say like maybe you're afraid of that, but Poe is not that.
Really, she comes into a situation. She's like, right, hi. We're in a tense situation. Leia's like fucking knocked out. She's like a leader and she's a friend of mine. I have like a plan, but we're just gonna like fucking just stick to it, right?
Right.
I don't like. I guess you can make the argument. Why didn't she just tell everyone all at once? But then that's the thing of like when you're in a military situation, like if your plan is like we're gonna just walk you all through everything that's gonna happen. Too many people knowing will create like leaks. It'll create like chaos. You'll have people who are like, well, I don't agree with that, and then how do they act? And again, that's why I'm like. Poe then finds out and he immediately acts in the worst way possible because he's an arrogant arsehole and it does create issues. Poe tells Finn and Rose on an open comm, which is how the First Order finds out, like everything that Poe could have done wrong that they worried that he would do wrong, he did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, okay, well, she's completely vindicated and Pony nice to let him know you can't just be an arrogant dickhead flying by. You need to make like tough calls. You need to make smart calls. You can't just fucking fly by in the seat of your pants and just hope it'll all go for the best. Sure, there's a little bit like maybe detail weaning you could figure out. Like when I look at it in a fucking brass tacks, like I ultimately am making an excuse for her not telling anyone. The text probably could have literally if they had a bit in the text where like they mention that like we don't want to say anything because of spies.
Right.
Like cool, that like locks it in. There's a guaranteed motive because otherwise, yeah, I do sort of feel like I'm inventing a reason. I just feel like it's logical. Do you know what I mean? I'd have an issue with filling in the gap if it's like I need to really make a stretch to fill in the gap. And yeah, like that's what he has this full arc. He faces up to these fucking issues, and then has that capstone moment at the end where he's like, "No, do you know what? The big egotistical, like supercharged thing, that's not going to work. I actually need to make the smart call. I need to make like the conscious call. I need to do things that are like save lives and shit."
I mean, he's just sort of, he's just there, bro. I'm not really fussed, man. He's just sort of there. It doesn't excite me or like, or not excite me.
I don't really like Poe as a character.
He's just like, okay, I've seen it before. I
don't
need it.
Fair. I mean, you're allowed to feel that way.
It's just, I'm just indifferent. I just don't care
there's
about him that much.
Sort of any other major stuff that's like,
I don't know, man. Like I say, it's got an exceptional fight scene at the end.
the fight scenes are fantastic.
The
Kylo kills Snoke and then him and Rey fight off all of Snoke's guards and it's beautiful.
Kylo killing Snoke makes sense to me. He's trying to like usurp Vader's legacy by doing what Vader couldn't do and severing the ties and then just following through with the Sith like code, I guess. Makes sense. Trying to convince Rey to join him again makes sense because he would need to then like teach someone else in the ways of the Sith.
It's just how
that
it
makes
is.
sense to me.
Even if you're not being explicitly says, that's just how Darksiders are. They're always like supplanting the master. They try to. George Lucas himself said this. What do you call it? But did you know that in the fights in the Praetorian Guards, at one point, a guy's dagger disappears, so it's actually the worst choreographed fight ever in Ryan Johnson's Poo Poo.
I did not know that. No, because I quite enjoyed the fight. So
I know, I was like, fantastic fucking fight, beautifully shot and choreographed. Like the colours, like the red guards and the red like burning like background curtain.
Yeah.
What did you think of the reveal that Rey's parents weren't like Darth Vader or like fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi or like someone important?
I like that. That's fine. I enjoyed that. Like we don't have like some fucking cosmic heritage for every single character that has to follow.
We don't have a cosmic heritage that every character
has
to follow.
Yeah, so we immediately retcon that in the next film. But
I
enjoyed that. I like that.
Because,
because like it doesn't matter. It genuinely does not matter. And like the Force is everything and everyone. So like, why couldn't it just be Rey for fucking Tatooine or whatever it is, Tatooine 2? Do you know what I mean?
Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
Jakku, aye. Why can't it just be Rey for Jakku, right?
It's just Tatooine 2. I love that though. I love that. That was J.J. Abrams just being like, yeah, it's fucking Tatooine again.
Tatooine again, bro, yeah.
No, that's good. I'm really happy to hear that, to be fair, because it's one of those moments that it's another one that everyone like bitches about, because it's like, oh, I wasn't sure like fucking Obi-Wan's daughter. Ryan Johnson threw away everything J.J. Abrams set up. I'm like, what did J.J. Abrams set up? She had a fucking wacky vision where like she heard Ewan McGregor a little bit. That doesn't even mean, by the way, Rey, it's me, your father.
Man, spoiler, she hears him again in the next movie.
She does, but it's weirder.
It's even weirder, aye. What was I going to say there? Shit balls in my mouth.
Oh my god, shit in his mouth.
Shit in my mouth. Fuck man, it was a good point as well, I swear it was a good point.
A bit like Rey's parentage type of thing? Or like Rey's
yes,
like
it was along that line. That's annoying. That is just really annoying.
No, that's completely fair.
Damn it, man.
Hope it comes back to you really soon.
I hope so.
Do you know what? I'll ask you, because do you know what? While on that, I'll prompt you. You did say though that you sort of felt that Last Jedi was like anti-Star Wars.
It's like a post-Star Wars. I don't know if I'm like, it seems a bit extreme saying it, thinking on it. Like post-Star Wars in the way that it's like, it seems antithetical to what I would assume Star Wars to be. So that again is like a preconceived what I'm taking into this film before I see it. And that is, I mean, it's probably mainly on the look characterization and like the comedy thing. But if you were to get in a room with people who don't like this film and say, this feels like anti-Star Wars, post-Star Wars film, I think every one of them would agree. So I don't know if I'm just like somehow tapped into that vibe.
I guess it just depends on what you mean by like, if you mean post like as in like the death of Star Wars. See, I think that's far too extreme type of thing.
I mean, the death could come in 10.
Like when you
because
say,
I don't know how we go from 9 to what's after 9.
It's antithetical in terms of like your feelings on the characterization. The problem is like, you look at it on its raw terms, whether you agree with it or not.
Right.
Like, look at the story is ultimately about like you know, a band of scrappy rebels facing adversity. It just maybe reflects more on that failure than others.
Right.
But it's also has that classic story of like, you know, hope. It's about like, you know, the idea of like what Luke can do as a faithful symbol. It interrogates in a different way. Like other Star Wars movies are about hope in the way it's like you gotta have hope.
Yeah.
Hope's great. This one's like, okay, but like where does hope come from? And how can we generate hope, and how do we make hope from the hopeless? And the movie has that whole thing of it ending on like a grand gesture of Jedi majesty, inspiring the new generation and reigniting the flame of rebellion and all that in the face of overwhelming oppression, which fucking is Star Wars as hell. So that's why I think people over exaggerate on the details, because ultimately every facet of this is just like a regular Star Wars movie. It just goes about the traditional elements in a vastly like different way, which I appreciate because as a result it feels more layered and compelling and not too familiar. Because I'd hate to just be told the same story again. I'd hate to just have it Empire again. Or like, I'm just happy that it's like a new take. Like the whole failure aspect for me is so fucking cool because it is like it's not like a regular message from Star Wars. It's not like every other Star Wars movie doesn't really have like a message in that sense other than just like be hopeful and be good and fight the baddies. And this movie's like, by the way, I'm going to take a second to tell you that like you will fall down sometimes, you will lose, you'll make mistakes, such as to be human. But how do you deal with that? What do you do with that? How do you take that energy and keep going? Because you should keep going, you should learn and you should grow, because we should always be learning, we should always be growing. And the bad guy's like, no, never learn, forget the past, always be cool. And it's like, no, shut up, Kylo Ren, you're stinky, put your top on.
Right. I don't know, man. Maybe you're just thinking on like some 4D plane that I'm just not on.
I don't think I'm thinking of anything. I think I'm just looking at the plot of the movie and going like, yep, that's Star Wars. That's like a theme that's in Star Wars.
Man is just more media literate than me. That's highly possible.
I don't think that's possible.
I would say
we've said this forever. You can fucking interrogate a film to the nth degree.
Do you think it's like?
I just think you're talking about your preconceived notion of Star Wars. I think your preconceived notion of Star Wars is just a bit
off,
too like,
or it's just too personal or something.
It's personal maybe, and also just like very locked. I don't want to say narrow because you're clearly like you can take so
I'm
much
very
in,
open to it, but like
you just have like it's as if you have like a requirement of like certain things,
like a checklist,
and it's like, well,
like if there's a Batman movie, he's got to have a cape, he's got to have this, he's got that.
And I don't think you're being quite so pedantic. I just mean more like a lot of the elements are technically there that make this a Star Wars, but you're like, well, I didn't see it in the way I wanted to see it or the way I thought it should have been seen.
Right.
So I worry that you're then taking that edge and going, well, it's just not really Star Warsy to me. Well, I mean, okay, you can because ultimately what the benefit of your game over the internet is that you still acknowledge this personally. Do you think Last Jedi is like a bad movie?
No, it's well made, and although I may not agree with like the way it goes, it's committed to it. So I don't think it's a bad film.
Competently written in what it does, beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Like some of the best cinematography of the whole fucking franchise. Steve Yedlin is a fucking boss. Not a lot of people talk about the score for this one, and I'm not just saying this because it's my favorite, but again, it's got a fantastically fucking beautiful score with like good callbacks that aren't just like, remember this song? Which fucking we'll get to that in the next one. But like there's they're like, oh, let's look and Leia, I've got a really poetic scene, so let's bring in that little leitmotif we used in episode 6 because that'll remind you of it, but this is also, it's not just remind you of it, it's also the same energy type of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's your key difference. You're look, you can admit that, yeah, do you know what, it's still like well made and there's like bits that are good, there's like a movie and all that, and well, I just don't agree with stuff that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Whereas you go online and it's like, oh, I didn't like how they did Luke Skywalker. Rian Johnson's made the worst film ever, and it looks shit, and I'm not going to listen to anything any of the characters say, and I'm going to start to comment on things and like say things that just are opposite to what happened in the movie.
Well, if you want to go and have a discussion with a wall, the best place to go is Twitter.
Hey.
So like obviously,
X, come on now, you like Elon?
Sorry, come on, X. Well, I like Twitter. Yeah, I just
like Twitter.
I understand that Twitter is what it is. And if I was to go to Twitter for
Instagram as well, I'm going to lump them in because they're quite bad as well.
Right.
Like, Facebook's always bad, but that's just Facebook.
I know if I go on Twitter and I'm looking for a good thing, I can find the good thing. But I will I'll find the good thing with like rose-tinted glasses. Like no one will discuss or acknowledge the bad things about the good thing. And if I want the bad thing, I will find the bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, there is a place to go.
Fucking bountiful.
Exactly.
Bad things. That's what
the discussion on Twitter is always marred with personal views and like saying it for saying it's sake. It's not like we're trying to have like no one on Twitter is open for movement.
Yeah.
I'm taking this. I'm on the left. I'm on the right. I'm here. This is where we are, and there's no one in the middle trying to work out where it is. Us here, we're quite happy to do that.
Yep.
We could sit and talk about any topic you want to, and we'll openly discuss it.
Yeah.
In the hope that we can understand each other better and understand the point better.
the other issue with Twitter and like online social media that is that everyone, because they have the ability to say something, believes that like they have to, and that their point is absolutely critical. So Davey can walk in and be like, "Hey, I watched Last Jedi, and it was stupid because there was a woman in it." And like, people will have that opinion, but the problem with Twitter is you get to see that. You're like, you see that chunk where fucking Davey the racist says like, "I saw a black person, I'm very unhappy about it." Like, you don't need to talk, bro.
I also would
people do reserve the right to speak, to be fair, but
I would also like that if David does say that, and in 2 years' time he's speaking about Last Jedi again, he's actually made some growth. He doesn't hate it anymore. I would like that to have happened. I feel like that doesn't really happen a lot on social media.
Not a whole lot. Although I will say the one thing that I get to like feel grateful about with The Last Jedi is that when episode 9 came out, everyone was like, "Oh shit."
It wasn't that bad, was it?
Fucking perhaps I treated you too harshly.
Yeah, I would agree. Before we go into 9, I want to like. Do you think my point or where I'm coming from is like could be explored better through a discussion of author intentions versus like personal like vision or like a view of something? So like when I make something, like it's no longer mine. It's like just up to the public to like perceive it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay, I do know. I know exactly what you're talking about, but in what sense do you want to talk about? I mean, interrogate
like,
your way, because
like as a Star Wars.
Yeah, you mean like in reference to The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
So like in what sense?
Like, am I justified in not liking it because it's not like the Star Wars I think it should be? Because I have 7 other movies, a Clone Wars TV animated show to like draw from.
Are you justifying that? Absolutely.
Right.
I think, no one can like everything.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah.
What you're saying is emphatically just, I have an opinion about Star Wars based on all the stuff I've seen, and Last Jedi does things that don't necessarily jive with that opinion, so for me personally, it's not, like, I wouldn't go for it. Like, yeah, by all means. The biggest issue I see with criticism is, like I say, is the conflagration of my personal approach to the idea versus actual abject quality. Like, I would never disregard the quality of Last Jedi.
I couldn't either because it is genuinely a well-made film.
And I still have some hang-ups to go over where like there is that feeling. I always feel like I could maybe talk you out of it. Like, if I just talk to Graham about it, I can maybe, and I should forgo that because there's no point. There's what really is for me to gain by just making you like brute force you into liking a movie, and you might not even fucking like it. I mean, you just might be like, "Oh my god, people like Last Jedi, like you're a fucking idiot, so just won't shut up about it."
No.
I think
you vehemently defend it, which I find endearing. But
what you actually said a minute ago was interesting, where you were like talking about like authorial intent, but then once it's out in the world, it's all up to interpretation. I just believe naturally for cinema there is no one or the other.
Right.
Like, Rian Johnson made this movie with these goals in mind, and it's impossible to not see that. That's Star Wars specifically. That's why it's so interesting, because Star Wars is its own thing with its own miasma, like opinions and inputs and that. So if Rian Johnson would come along and go, I'm going to put my building block in it, but my building block's going to look different.
Right.
It's like it's right in the middle. There's both. Things can be both in a way. Like, you can put something out there and it will be up to interpretation, but to then deny authorial intent is ridiculous, especially in the instance of stuff like this, which is pluralism.
So for example, if like Alien comes out, right?
Okay.
And an interpretation of that, a very well-founded interpretation, you would say, would be the like sexual imagery in it, like especially towards Ripley. And then Ridley Scott comes out and says, "That's fucking not what I was going for." So does that then devalue that interpretation because the director said that's not what it's about, or does that then create some sort of weird duality where no one knows exactly what it is about now?
No, I think that's too locked in. See, I think interpretation, the thing about art is that it's always to be interpreted.
Exactly.
If Ridley Scott directly said, "Well, I wasn't doing it," Ridley Scott can't say it's not that. All Ridley Scott can say is, "I didn't mean that."
Right.
But like, if you're deriving that from it, then completely fair, because that is just art as a purpose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. Like, what my opinion of, at least in Last Jedi, is more the inverse, where it's like, for example, Ryan's not. It's like the opposite. Ryan's not saying it counted. Ryan's like, "Oh, I'm going to add a bunch of like interpretive elements and a bunch of like thematic layers and that." And it's the people who are like, no, like Star Wars can't be that. Star Wars wasn't that before, so it can't be it now.
Right.
And people were pedantic. It was like people would see like the fucking like Luke's force projecting and be like, "Well, that wasn't in another movie."
Right.
So that didn't exist before this movie, so it can't happen because it wasn't in the other movies.
Yeah.
It's like, what, fucking Palpatine couldn't shoot lightning at his fingers before the movie would have did that?
Aye, that's dumb because the Force is unknowable.
Yeah.
No one knows exactly what the shit
Pedantic details, like the like Holdo ramming the supremacy.
as a last-ditch effort.
Do you think that's like, oh, well, that wasn't, why didn't they just do that to the Death Star? We talked about this.
Because, if you've got a big ship, like, that's costing money. Like, if we go...
Literally
if we
one
take
of the biggest ships in the fucking, like, Resistance fleet.
If we take the Clerks clip, which is high-class cinema, right, where they're talking about the constructors on the Death Star, working on the Death Star because it pays great, and, like, they've got great insurance and shit like that. That's obviously why they take the job.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
They wouldn't just destroy this humongous piece of equipment that takes, like, years to build, probably, and, like, hundreds of jobs have been created, and just destroy it.
Aye. Like, just chuck an X-Wing at it and we'll blow it up and that's fine.
Exactly. They seriously would have considered that if it was an actual possibility.
Why doesn't everyone just lightspeed ram Grim? Because it'll just kill them.
Literally.
Why doesn't everyone just kamikaze?
Literally. Like, we've got to live to fight another day, preferably. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's the whole fucking purpose of, like, every fucking movie with the rebels in it, that we should probably try and keep the rebels because it's sad when they die.
There's, like, few of us.
And then the fucking Dave Star Wars fan on Twitter is like, by the way, I think that they actually should have just done suicide bombs every minute of every fucking fight. Why didn't they just suicide bomb every fucking thing that got in their way?
If they really loved the rebellion, they would just do it, wouldn't they?
Also, critically important to note that, like, Holdo's suicide rush also doesn't, like, win the battle. It cripples the supremacy, but the supremacy is still very much active and able to deploy a battalion to create everything.
Yes.
But this is the biggest fear for a discussion, that I'd get caught up in the miasma, because I've been exposed to just so much fucking nonsense about this online, and that's because I was online. Do you know what I mean? I'm not blaming that on you. Yeah. I was online and I had to deal with it.
Aye. You're like voluntarily in the trench sometimes.
Sometimes I would just go out there, and I said this on Twitter the other day.
I have like never been involved in like the Twitter war of like anything really. I might have. I don't.
No wonder you live a fucking peaceful monk lifestyle.
Exactly, because I just don't allow myself to get involved, and I don't even think I've been close. Maybe I've been close once, right? But I don't know what it was for. So I've got that in my future a bit. Like I feel like there's probably something in life that I will get involved in.
That's interesting,
and I'm excited for it one day.
Fucking
but also terrified of it.
versus like Ashley.
Oh, bro.
Because I would put myself on Team Ashley, and I feel like that would just cause controversy between us.
Man, that is controversy, but it's okay.
Yeah, so it's like that. I mean, yeah, to avoid getting too back into the minutia, you get what I mean? It's like, that's weird because it's the interpreters forcing interpretation on. That's like, and I'm not saying you were personally doing that, but that's the general vibe of a lot of people going like, I'm taking a very specific image of Star Wars into this, but for some reason that's now so locked in that I can't conceive of it alternatively.
Right.
And that Last Jedi, for me, when I became like super aware of how much I loved it, is because I was like, oh, I'm thinking of Star Wars in a new way.
Right.
I'm seeing Star Wars in a different lens. It can be like a bit more like subjective and a bit more like textured and emotional, and characters can have a bit more nuance to them other than just like good guy versus bad guy, like light sword hit robot. And that's kind of almost, if you want to look at it even more ridiculous, that's kind of what the prequels were up to.
Right.
When they were like, oh no, what if there was like politics, and what if there was like emotional fucking through lines and that? And it just was delivered in a kind of honky way back then.
And we quite enjoy the prequels now because of that, I would say.
And I truly hope that in the future, like,
man, when we have the sequels,
we'll wait and see for that. But like, I hope that Last Jedi, I hope just will get its day in the sun. And people, there's the thing about Last Jedi now in the modern era is it's very much, it has settled to a degree. Okay. You've got people who just love it and they're just like, yep, we accept it. A lot of people do just accept it. Like me and you, even though you say you don't get involved with stuff, we're still like miles above like Dave and Jane on Facebook who just watched the movies. I'm like, yep, I just watched the movies. I thought they were good.
Well, listen.
The regular movie going audience.
We are like, we've started the podcast soon.
Yeah, I mean, for fuck's sake.
Like, we are the audience that are going to keep talking about this. But like, Dave and Jane just saw Star Wars.
And we're like, honestly, we're like the minority, like fucking audience. I'm pretty sure like the fucking probably about 20% of the audience are weirdos who like care about Star Wars like this.
Like the movie probably made $1 billion or whatever.
The movie made like, it was like the most popular movie that year. It made like, I think it was $1 billion. Like, it's literally one of the best sellings like fucking all time. It did great for Disney.
There's like 7 billion people on the planet. Like probably not even $1 billion of them care about it this much. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't matter. And for the people who do, it's like, it's just a miasma of like, you know, most times someone will say something nice about Last Jedi, and then like, again, like fucking woke Star Wars hater 666 would be like, oh well, fucking pedantic point number 1, and you're like, oh my god, we're doing this again. Alright, kamikaze runs on every single move would not be a good idea, David. Or it'll be like, again, they'll post like, oh man, there's a thing there where Star Wars gifts is, as it says on the tin, it's a fucking X account that posts Star Wars gifts. They post a couple of Last Jedi ones, and it was like the fucking throne room scene. Everyone's like, really good, really cool. Yeah. And some guy's like, well, actually, at one point a dagger disappears, and it's the worst choreography ever. Says me, and I'm like, really? Where was the last fucking major motion picture you choreographed, Derek? Derek.
Fucking Derek James
Right.
1112517 with fucking no Twitter avatar.
Aye. I mean, I'm not saying it's like The Matrix, but it's still like good, right?
It's really good. A lot of people, it's funny because it's its own point of comparison.
Right.
Talking about like, people are comparing like that to like Ahsoka.
Well, yeah, like Ahsoka's ass.
Yeah.
I've seen the clip of Ahsoka and it's ass.
I'm so confused by people saying that's like
Peak.
really good when it's
not
like
peak.
just not.
It is not peak.
But
They
look,
look bored.
But speaking of not peak, I think, I'm really happy with how we did. Do you think we've covered?
I think so. Like, I don't think I've covered myself in glory with like my discussion points on these, but it is in the end just my personal preference. I can't get as in as you are.
Mm-hmm. The only
You're
person
just
you need
more-
to like glorify, you talking about current glories to me.
I
Like, we're not
guess.
putting this out to, you're not giving this to an audience, The Last Jedi people.
I suppose.
You're giving it, like, anybody listening to this can just be like, yeah, well, Graham just didn't like the movie, and just because it wasn't like, kind of didn't think it was like the Star Wars that he thought it would be.
Yeah.
And as I've emphasised, the critical difference of me is between I don't like the movie because it's not what I want it to be, and I don't like the movie because it's not wanted to be, and therefore it is a bad movie. And therefore, it like is emphatically like, because I didn't like the way Luke was done, also the cinematography is bad, and also
Right,
the
yeah.
acting is bad, and it's like, okay,
Aye.
no, and you're not like that. Which we going into this, I told you this wouldn't be as hostile as we joked about it being,
Aye.
because I actually knew that you're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a fucking Twitter dickhead. You're like a
Yes.
human being with like a fucking opinion.
Aye. Yes.
I don't agree with your opinions, but like you also don't agree with my opinions.
But they are my opinions.
You know what I mean? That's just how it is.
But
If you
there's
ever
like-
like have stuff you want to ask me about or talk about it, I'll always go into it. I'll be like, well,
course,
here's
of
my
course.
opinion, and here's like what we know, and here's what we don't know.
Yeah.
It's truly, for me, I think it's absolutely
It
fantastic.
is Ewan's favourite movie.
Probably is like one of, like next to Everything Everywhere. It's probably
Yeah.
my second or third favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
I'm just greatly amazed by the fact that, to take such a long running franchise and really just diversify like what you can really say with it, to
Yeah.
make such a bold sort of assertion of theme and character, to really press everyone in a way that it sort of hadn't been pressed before and wasn't really traditional for the franchise, and to do it all with a consistency, like beautiful visuals, beautiful fucking sound, light, cinematography, score. Again, it's like one of my favourite scores for Star Wars. Not a lot of people talk about it, but it's some fucking amazing moments on it. But,
Yeah, I would say it's definitely untraditional. Takes in a different way. For better or worse, I don't know. But the next one definitely for worse.
let's wrap up the trilogy at least with we can agree on. That was 2019's Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker, which was shite.
With Skywalker's Rising, because
Fucking
don't know what it is, eh?
with Skywalker's Rising, Shmi's fucking body's coming at the ground like a zombie.
oh fuck, bro, that's based.
Oh god. Okay, like I kept jokingly, like, and sort of like exasperatingly, like rubbing my temples and that, because I'm like, oh god, how am I going to talk about Force Awakens? How am I going to talk Last Jedi? But now I'm doing it because I'm like, oh my god, The Rise of Skywalker. Like, this is not how I'm going to talk about it. I just don't like talking about it.
I mean, we don't even have to spend that much on it, because
Aye.
genuinely, it's like we turn up.
Well, look, like to quickly resummarize what it said. So
You on?
2 year. Colin Trevorrow's like, I got a script. Boom. Disney like, we don't know. Rewrites it. Like, boom. They're like, I don't know. We've not really got time anymore. You're off.
Aye.
JJ, you made the first one. Just get in here. Fucking the guy for Batman vs Superman.
Dave Goyle.
No, not Dave Goyer. It was one of the Zack Snyder ones. Fucking Chris something or other, I think.
Chris
Terrio, and he wrote like fucking like Batman vs Superman or Justice League or fucking one of them.
Right. So immediately, Ewan's not in it.
Bro, when they were like, it's Terrio, and I didn't really know back then. And someone was like, by the way, do you know Terrio like wrote like this? I'm like, oh my god, he wrote this. The co-writer for the 2017 Joss Whedon's Justice League.
Joss Whedon's, right? Let's have that, because the
He wrote
Zack
the
Snyder
screenplay
is
for Batman
actually right.
vs Superman as well.
I like that one, but Ewan doesn't.
I don't really
Ewan's
care
not
about
in
it.
it.
But then specifically Josh Whedon's Justice
Aye,
League.
that's the bad one.
To be fair, I guess I've writing credit on Zack Snyder's Justice League, although I don't really write how that's written either. I think it's pompous. I like that movie, but I watched that and was like, yeah, this dialogue takes itself far too seriously.
See, that's like my vibe. I like that.
Well, then at least it matched for what they were going for.
I suppose.
For this movie, it didn't match what they were going for.
No,
So,
not at all.
So the fucking baseline here is that Rise of Skywalker was, as we said, J. James being like, whatever.
Fine.
Ryan Johnson didn't telepathically do what I wanted him to do, so we're just going to fucking grab this train and fucking tear it by hand off at one set of rails onto another set of rails.
Right.
We're going to just fly in the face of all the choices made in The Last Jedi. Quite frankly, we're going to fly in the face of a bunch of choices that we made in a bunch of other movies and just make it reach a conclusion that I had in my fucking trailer one day,
Right.
is what I feel.
Okay.
Now, yes, the movie has redeeming qualities.
Like.
Are you asking me? Such
Yeah.
as?
Yeah. Such as. Oh, there's a really cool fight on like a water planet.
There's a really cool fight on a water planet, except the more you think about it, you're like, oh, okay, the Death Star had ruins, even though we watched it get atomized, but also big chunks of it fell on a water planet, and those chunks sat in the complete exact location for decades so that a knife could have a wee bendy out bit, and that wee bendy out bit matches the curvature of the ruins on the waterlogged planet that have never eroded.
Bro, the Force, right?
Never shifted.
Space
Yeah,
ninjas.
the Ray Kylo effect's really good. I mean, everyone's still acting. They're doing their best with shit-ass dialogue most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I know I liked the comedy in The Last Jedi, but a lot of people were pure like, oh, it's cool that like they're all back together and they're all having like pure banter. I thought the banter was like fun, but it was like very like, yeah, it's like Star Wars, it's fun. I mean, it still looked good. A lot of it looked good. A lot of concepts were still interesting, like the pushing of the Rey Kylo Ren like Force dyad getting together thing. I don't like that they just suddenly like it's a dyad, it's like a thing, and I'm like, what are you talking about? But like, I still accept it because it's the same logic with The Last Jedi, where I'm like, okay, well, yeah, the Force will just have things.
Aye.
I think I was more just confused because everyone seemed to know about it.
Right.
Like, Palpatine's like, that's a dyad, and I was like, oh yes, that's that critically important thing. But the point is, that was still a great feature. The expansion to have them now physically pass between.
Right.
Like the fight scene where they kind of fight each other through the dyad. Like she's like on
the planet. He's in his room.
I'll try my best to remember as well, just to prove that I do.
It's the planet with the crazy bounty hunter lady. Kajimi.
Sorry, he's in his room and like knocks over the stuff and like they pass the lightsaber and that. I love everything about what Exegol is. I love that there's just a fucking evil, demonic, super evil fucking villain planet where there's lightning all the time and big floating fucking monoliths. And like, this is where the Sith live. There's a big fucking chair and the Sith are like chanting.
What are the Sith chanting to do, Ewan?
No. Okay, so I'm like so sad. I'm so fucking sad about this. Okay.
Man's stressed out. He just has to say.
So fucking Palpatine comes back.
Somehow Palpatine
returned.
Aye.
And so in that initial trailer, when they did the whole trailer, that's quite a good trailer.
And then
Palpatine laughs at the end, and you're like,
how's he back?
What's happening there?
Aye.
And everyone was like, a bunch of people were like, oh, what do you mean he's back? And you're like, back?
But he died though, right?
They were all like, this could be an issue. And Palpatine's return had fucking pretty much failed on absolutely every level, other than Ian McDiarmid's a cool guy and is great at acting.
Right.
It missed. It was like it's as much a failure as we had every fear of it to be.
Right.
He's just back.
That's it.
And the dead speak in the crawl.
Dead speak.
Like, by the way, Palpatine
has returned.
Again. He's just back.
That's
and he just has another fleet.
Yeah.
This movie rushes through every fucking concept of the plot. Palpatine's just back in the crawl. He just has a fleet. Kylo Ren goes to the planet and he's like, fuck, Snoke was a clone. It's Palpatine the whole time. Palpatine was there. Kylo Ren, go kill Rey. Okay, I'll go kill Rey. And he's like, I can't kill Rey. Palpatine's like, it's fine. I actually needed Rey. I don't know why I told you to go kill her because I actually wanted her alive for my plan. Why did Palpatine ask Kylo Ren? And like, they're like, we gotta go.
Quick.
Palpatine's like back. This is the thing where they're going to fill it in with a book. And I'm like, do not fucking fill this in with a book. Like, don't turn around and be like, yes, well, actually, he was a clone, and one of his clones was a failure, whose name is Dathan. Nathan with a D. And Dathan was a failed clone of Palpatine who went out and found Mira.
Made some babies.
Because then they made babies. That baby was fucking Rey.
That's it.
Alex, Star Wars Explained, said this eloquently, but it's literally what I did too. When I was in that fucking theatre and fucking Kylo Ren's like, you're a Palpatine, I fucking deflated like a balloon.
Man, just like melted to the chair.
It's like, what Last Jedi said about lineage was great. Like, do you know what? No, you don't need to belong to a fucking secret bloodline. You are powerful in yourself, Rey.
Yeah.
Forge your own destiny. And anyone can be fucking the Force. Finn could be even from the Force.
Like, I love that. That's good.
The problem is they bring that back in this movie. It's almost like but do you know what? Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Like, anyone can still use the Force, but do you know what? Your story's not that important because you're not a Skywalker or a Palpatine.
Because once again, we're here.
We're fucking here, and it's just the Skywalkers and the fucking Palpatines, and they're the only fucking characters who matter.
Aye.
And they say the Palpatines, and the behind-the-scenes stuff, JJ and Chris Taylor, they talk about, this is a story of like the Skywalkers and the Palpatines. No, it's about one Palpatine. He was a bad man who died.
Yeah.
And fucking Darth Vader's sacrifice was hinged on that, and it just didn't really count because he just sort of went and became a ghost.
Cool. I guess.
And then he is like, I have to put my power in Rey, even though I asked Kylo Ren to kill her, but whatever, I need her alive because Rey's a Palpatine. You're like my granddaughter, which
sharing my blood
Then he like
or whatever.
he finds like the dyad. He's like, oh my god, you're actually like a dyad. I'll just suck your juice. And he like shoots lightning. And he's like, I have a fucking fleet of 5 bazillion Star Destroyers, and they all have Death Stars on them.
Let's go.
Which is fucking embarrassing that they put that in that film. Like, really?
Not much pog.
Like, it was bad enough when they just made a second Death Star, and Palpatine's like, no, I just built a fucking bunch of Death Stars.
Bunch, mate, like at least 500.
That's like
Easy.
some legend shit. This whole thing is basically Dark Empire, I think. Is it Dark Empire? I think it's Dark Empire. Don't quote me on that. And to be fair, there was a behind the scenes documentary where you see a copy of that on Terrio's desk.
Oh, man, loved
It's
it.
like, bro, people don't like Dark Empire in the modern era.
Man loved it, but
Palpatine being a weird fucking clone and just coming back again wasn't like fun.
But
and
he thought it was
fun
great.
now, and he's like, no, that's it. We'll just base it on that.
that's peak fiction right there.
I'm like, this is why didn't want people to like base shit on Legends. Oh my god. And then like, okay, like Rey's like, okay, I'm a Palpatine. You know what? I might immediately become the worst person in the whole galaxy ever.
Because I'm evil now.
So I'm gonna go kill Palpatine. I'm like, no, don't be like Palpatine. That's bad. And she goes there and she's like, do you know what? I'm not gonna kill you. And he's like, that's fine. I don't want you to kill me. Or no, I do want you to kill me. And she's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna kill you then.
Weird.
And then he's like, whatever. And then he shoots lightning and she shoots it back and he dies.
Cool.
And this time it was for realsies.
Oh, maybe. We don't know.
But no, after
Possibly.
she gets like knocked out and has that thing you mentioned earlier, where like she hears just the
like
voices
all of the Jedis.
of like all the Jedi, and it's like like Obi-Wan and Anakin and like Leia or maybe or like cool, and then it's like Mace Windu,
Kylo,
Ki-Adi-Mundi,
the base Kiadi
like Luminara,
Chad.
and then it's like Ahsoka and Kanan.
Let's go.
And I'm like, oh my god, Ahsoka and Kanan, but like what? And then it's like, does that mean they're dead?
Maybe.
Because like these guys are all dead except for Ahsoka at that point, as far as we know.
Yeah.
But like, what was going on there?
Who knows, June?
And what did that really? That was just a bunch of people going like, Rey, just do it anyway. And then okay, so then they have that contrived fucking literally like Avengers Endgame and I Am Iron Man, where he's like, I am all the Sith and I am all the Jedi. But the problem is they write that into the story. Palpatine keeps insisting on like, oh man, all the Sith like flow through me and I'm gonna go into you. And I'm like, what do you mean? Do you mean literally like the spirit of every Sith ever is like in you now and you're not going to put that in Rey? And she turns around after this Force Ghost fucking Zoom call and is like, well, I'm all the Jedi. I'm like, what do you mean?
Damn, man.
What does that mean?
Bro, it could just be Force shit. Like, I don't know.
But like, it doesn't really manifest anything other than Rey being able to hold 2 lightsabers and reflect
Maybe it's just like
spell.
power. It's just like some sort of like ascended power or like level of being or something. I don't know, man.
But it's just her picking up a second lightsaber.
Nah, that's maybe like how it looks, but like actually
She's
inside,
really feeling some fucked up weird shit.
actually inside, it could be like
Just
all of the power of the Force from all of the Jedi previous has like manifested inside of me or something. I don't know, man.
I don't know, man.
I tell you what, but episode 10 is gonna suck probably
Why?
because like I just don't get it, bro. Like, how could it be good?
I think if they just don't acknowledge anything that happened, really. Like, the idea of Rey
Is she
coming
gonna
back...
go by Skywalker? That annoys me.
Yes. And that's gonna annoy me too.
That annoys me, man.
Like, yeah, so that final scene, that like this is the end of the fucking
Skywalker
movie,
saga.
and it's just like Rey buries the lightsabers, farts about in Tatooine. There's a whole thing where like genuinely the energy of that scene implied that it was gonna be like she was gonna live there. Because she's like, I'm playing the sand, I'm having fun, I'm burying the lightsabers. I'm now Rey Skywalker, I'm taking that name.
There's an old lady. Why is she there? I
The
don't know.
name of the song is A New Home.
Right.
It probably means the lightsabers, but like there was
Yeah.
just weird energy about that. And I'm like, what the fuck is Rey doing just dicking about in Tatooine? Why is she here?
Bro, why are we in Tatooine again?
Why are we on fucking Tatooine again?
Well, I know we're here by the
BB-8's there, which like I know BB-8 and her friends, but that's just Poe's droid. Why is she like, Poe, give me BB-8, I'm going to go to Tatooine and fuck about.
Bro, she killed Poe.
And then yeah, an old lady shows up
That's her gaff, I'm guessing,
out of
right?
nowhere.
She lives there now.
And then she's like, who are you? And she's like, Rey. And she's like, no, you also need to quantify that with your second name.
I'm Rey Skywalker.
Like,
who the fuck's that? Cool. Brilliant. See you later.
why would you take that name as well? Like,
I don't know, bro.
what's the purpose? You don't need to take that name. You're literally in that
You
movie.
don't even need to say Palpatine, really.
In that
You
movie.
could just be
in
Rey.
that movie, she literally does that. They're on the fucking Pisana, the festival planet.
Aye.
And the wee fucking person's like, what's your name? She's like, oh, I'm Rey. And they're like, oh, what's your second name? Which, again, why would a kid be like,
Just Rey.
by the way, can you quantify that with your second name
Aye.
additionally?
I need to know.
My name is fucking like Nambi Gima. which I'm pretty sure is hyphenated, so technically that might just be one name. Bye. She's like, oh, just Rey. It's like, cool, bang, sorted.
That's it. We don't need Skywalker.
Why
Pish.
should need to be a Skywalker? Like,
That's annoying.
I know people can derive like emotional through lines for
I
it,
guess,
but
yeah, it's like, oh, Leia was like a teacher to me, like I loved her like a mother.
It's the deification of Skywalkers again. I'm fucking sick of this family.
Bro, we're gonna get 9, that's the end of the Skywalker saga.
Like, cool, the Skywalkers go, no,
But
Rey's
now,
actually a Skywalker
now she is, so 10 is
She's,
gonna
like,
be part of it as well.
jutted herself onto the tree.
Aye.
So
It's a bit dumb.
like 10, other than like the fact she's gonna be like, I'm Master Rey Skywalker, I'm gonna be like, oh.
Aye, that would annoy me.
I think it's fine as long as it just deals with another thing.
We'll just, I don't know, man. We just might wait and see, I guess. But I don't see how it's good. Honestly, I don't have anything else to add to 9 because it is genuinely like just awful for a Star Wars fan.
Like, quickly, like,
it's a fine watch if you're just like, I'll stick it on.
I don't even agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I watched it like more. That's like the movie I watched the most times in cinema by accident. Like it was like I went with my family.
Man
and
hates it so much.
I'm pretty sure like I went with you, mind.
Yep.
You and one of our old friends were just like, let's just go. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I don't like this movie, but yeah, okay.
But fine.
And sure, I went a third time, and it was like every time it was just miserable to watch.
Damn,
like,
man.
yeah, like I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I mean, Kylo Ren, he's great throughout. He has a really great emotional scene where
I honestly think he's wasted at the end, bro.
yeah,
I think he should just die a villain.
He has this emotional crux. Well, I think he either dies a villain or he stays alive as a hero. And I think staying alive as a hero is infinitely more interesting. So, like, he has this great emotional moment with probably supposed to be like a forced thing of Carrie.
Right.
Which, yeah, this movie had to compete with the death of Carrie Fisher.
Right.
Which is rough. You can tell all her scenes are like, we had a bunch of like B-roll footage. Let's just see if we can Frankenstein something out of that.
Yeah.
They don't really do a good job because she also just like sort of goes away to die at one point. She's like, oh, I'm tired.
Goodbye.
I'm like, okay, cool. And then yeah, there's the scene with like Harrison Ford where like I guess that was probably supposed to be like Carrie.
Fair.
I think it's a great scene. I think it's great that Kylo Ren has that like, fuck it, I'm going back, I'm letting my conflict go through. It's just after that point he doesn't speak a single line.
Right.
He just ceases to function. He goes, oh, at one point, and then he fights a bit, and then he dies.
Yeah.
But he doesn't die, he actually comes back out the pit, and then he's like, Rey.
Yep. Then
and
he
then
dies.
like, dies.
Then he dies, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't even like shipping stuff. I don't really like them about that. The Reylos are like lovely people. A lot of people complain about them being diehards. I actually talked to Reylo and they're actually kind of really fun and interesting, but I didn't just personally care for the ship, so I didn't necessarily need to see that happen.
Right.
I just emphatically believe that like killing him was just pointless. To go through all that rigmarole to bring him back for like 5 minutes to not say a single line of dialogue and then just die anyway.
Right.
People have talked about how in Star Wars enemies, people just keep dying.
Right.
Like, what does redemption look like? Fucking Callus and Rebels. Oh my god, how cool is it that that guy was a baddie and then he stopped being a baddie and atoned and worked to become a goodie and he had a fulfilling emotional life. Like, let Kylo live and let's figure out like what the world.
Yeah.
We can imagine there's a world now beyond this where like evil can be redeemed.
Yeah.
You don't just need to be bad once and die. You can actually come back. You can live. Even like Anakin Skywalker, who was amazing, still technically died and became a ghost. Like, Finn regresses to me in this. Like, when you talk about how he didn't really go the direction Last Jedi, and this one he just is like, has nothing.
Well, I don't like where he goes in Last Jedi, so it just doesn't matter where he goes here.
It
obviously doesn't matter.
What I think is like, it's the whole JJ thing. Like, JJ, did he even have an idea for what he was going to do with Finn? Because Finn just screams Rey a bunch in
this. But I
this.
think, like, it doesn't help that. That's why I said at the start earlier, like, if JJ had the whole trilogy, I think it'd have made more sense coherently, at least for people that didn't like it. Because
I would disagree with that. The idea that all three of them made me the same person would have created a coherent thing.
Yeah, like, that's why I think he's 9. I don't know what he's trying to do.
I know.
Because, like, it doesn't matter what he does. It's going to be bad unless he goes for what 8's doing and he doesn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. So then that's the problem. The problem is he clearly just couldn't, like,
from the start, I think.
He couldn't just swallow his pride and be like, okay, well, maybe I didn't like what he did because it wasn't what I was going to do. But rather than work off it, he's like, I'm just going to do my own thing.
If the case is, if Kathleen Kennedy goes, I don't like this script, JJ come in, and then JJ goes, I'm not doing shit that he did. Why is he then allowed to do it? Because he's not the guy to do it then.
I was going to say, this is where the one thing I agree with, where like, there was no enough oversight on 9. There was no enough, like, there wasn't someone, like
if
checking it.
Like, and obviously Ryan wasn't getting it. Because the backlash for it was so bad.
I like the idea that it was never going to be like Ryan anyway. I like the idea it was always going to be a different person.
Like
it's just the problem is the idea to be a different person, and then but by the way, we also didn't fucking plan it either. Like, it was different people, and we just didn't treat them as like a unit.
Yeah,
we didn't get them in a room and said, "Here's what the story's going to be."
That's why, like, in the end, this will be looked upon as a failure at that level.
No, I
even
agree
if
with that.
you don't like the films,
as someone who like loves it to death, as I say, like, the problem is, what I said at the start, if 9 could have been like sufficient, I think it would have been fine. I feel like JJ there's no reason why he couldn't have just kept going. He just seems to have stubbornly decided that I'm going to stay and do what I'm going to do.
But maybe like he just couldn't do it.
I've watched people who are like, give him some credit. He was literally forced to fucking rescue this movie. Well, I say rescue. Disney could have gave it more time. They just didn't give enough time.
Yeah.
They could have like give Colin Trevorrow another fucking rewrite script. It was a good fucking script. Just let him fucking write it up. Or if you're gonna like fucking throw everybody out and throw JJ in, give him like a bit more time other than just like, no, bro, write the script, make the movie now. It's coming out in 2019. Like, good luck.
Well, I honestly don't think you could say hang something like you could negatively put something on JJ because he didn't want to do something with 8 because he just doesn't have to do that if that's not the story he wants to tell. So I think that's that.
Well, I think he has an obligation to Star Wars. Consider it from Ryan's perspective. Ryan comes in and say he doesn't want to do it. Like, he himself admits, like, some concepts that JJ introduced in the 70s. He's like, well, I don't really want to deal with that because I don't really have a good idea for that and that. But Ryan's still, okay, well, I have an obligation to carry on the narrative and here's how I feel like it should carry on based on what I believe and what's there. If JJ doesn't like it, that's fine. But I feel like he has an obligation to just go, fine, what have I got and how do I extrapolate that out in a good way? But all his answers were like, Palpatine just comes back out of nowhere. I know we said that Rey wasn't a person, but she actually is a person. And like Finn's not a character anymore. Like Poe's not a character anymore. Except he was also a drug dealer at one point, which doesn't make any canonical sense.
Right.
There was another, when I was talking about oversight, this movie doesn't have any like canonical sense. Disney do their big reboot and their big like fuck Legends, we're going to do a big streamlined narrative, and then they let J.J. Abrams not ever ask a single person on the story group any questions. So he's like, by the way, I know all of the assistant material said Poe was in the Flight Academy and then went to join the Resistance. He was also just a drug dealer at one point. Deal with that.
Sneaky.
Like, oh, by the way, like Chewbacca gets a medal, even though he like fully had a medal. But just remember episode 4.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but Chewbacca got a medal in the comics. No, nobody read the comics. Fuck you. I wanted to do a fucking callback to episode 4, so you were just gonna do it.
I get what you're saying to a point that like obviously he's got like contractual obligations, but I think if you're coming on and you're like, I can't do that, you need to just walk away from it.
Well, yeah, but that is a JJ issue. I think it's also like Kathleen and like the people higher up should
even Ryan. If Ryan's like, I don't like, sure you're contracted to do it, but like signing on to that deal when there's nothing written and all that shit, that seems wild to me. But I get it. It's Star Wars, it's the biggest thing you've ever done.
I'm not trying to defend like the people who you're like.
I can just see that like I can see a world where he doesn't write it and it's someone else and write it better because it's like they like it and they can follow it better.
I don't even know that because he publicly said he liked it. He had like but then
but
I
maybe
suppose you can tell it's like press
you need to say that.
But he also didn't need to say it at all.
I guess
you
not.
don't need. I mean, yeah, okay. I suppose people are like, "What do you think he ate?" And he chooses his words.
Bro,
but he literally had fucking interviews where he's like, "I loved episode 8. I thought it was great, and I'm gonna like use it for my story."
Bro, James Gunn said The Flash was the best movie I've ever seen.
Do you know what? Aye.
There you go. Right.
You've got me there.
Come on.
You've got me there emphatically. Like,
it's not the best. I don't think it's as bad, but it's not the best. Right. Come on.
God.
Let's have it right.
Yeah, I suppose no. I guess these days I do give JJ a bit better, but he's one of those where I know he could have done better. Like he did have an obligation to do better than he did, rather than stubbornly keep going. But he also did have to work under some severe
mad pressures from Disney,
like, pressures and like obligations and like fucking noise and like considering stuff.
Aye.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Finn just shouts Rey a lot, and then randomly has a force moment at the end because I guess that was always JJ's intent. But he was like, "Yeah, just chuck it in there." My issue is John Boyega talks about how much he fucking loves JJ Abrams.
Well, that's
like,
because
it was good because he got him big on episode 7, but he talks as if like JJ Abrams like did great things for the character. It's like, well, JJ Abrams got Finn. James had great plans. I'm like, JJ fucking didn't.
I think when he sat John Boyega down and was like, "I'm casting you," he probably gave him this big spiel like, "This is where I see Finn going," and that isn't what happened at all.
That makes sense.
I could imagine that happening, and that's why he loves him so much.
I'm worried about like JJ fucking promising him to be like, because John Boyega was like public, like I don't like I think he wanted to be like a force user. He didn't like getting pussy with a bit.
That's where I thought it was going.
But then my issue with that is like he seems to not point out that JJ was the one who made that happen. Like JJ was the one who said, "Oh no, like I know I did all the marketing with Finn having a lightsaber and all the trailers of that, and then in the actual movie I fucking rug pulled you and Finn gets killed and it's actually Rey."
But that doesn't necessarily mean that in the next movie that's not going to be it.
Yeah, but you need to then do a big like curve
I've not seen. I don't know JJ's notes.
Like the language of 7 is literally no, it's not Finn. Finn actually loses the fight and it's Rey. Yes. So then the idea that like 7 would turn their back and go, well, no, actually, that's almost as bad as the shit that 9 does to 8, where it's like, no, I'm gonna have to turn around and actually completely bend this backwards to work for something different.
No, well, maybe it's not that he's like the Force user. It's like he still wants to like become a Jedi or at least like follow that path. but it's like Sabine now. It's like a struggle for him. Maybe it's something like that.
That's possible.
Where it's not like
then that's
like
another
Ray's
thing
like
that's-
Ray's like look where it's like you're just attuned to it. You just get it. It's just fucking easy for
This
you.
is another thing where it's like an issue of like the lack of planning and that to the lack of talking because
That's
like
what I
again
mean, yeah, like,
in the
it just
text to
isn't
7,
good.
I'm not saying you need to explicitly detail everything in its foreshadowing, but
Yeah.
for all JJ's mystery boxes, like he uses the visual indicators, but Finn doesn't exactly have like a force moment in 7. He doesn't really talk about the force or anything.
Yeah.
He just has a bit where he has the lightsaber.
Aye.
So like if that was a thing they wanted to do, if they wanted to take Finn in that direction, they could have literally all together worked on it more. This is another one of those consequences where it's like Ryan probably just looked at it and it's like, well, JJ didn't really have Finn really be a force guy.
I'll just do what I want to do it.
Like, there's no reason for me to just randomly bend that backwards.
Aye. Which makes sense, you know. I can't lie.
I want to see behind the scenes because both Ryan and JJ both had text. Like Ryan said, I had notes from JJ. I had like stuff.
Like,
And like, what did he actually have?
Yeah, I have no doubt in like the documentary of these 3 movies is gonna be like some hot fire shit.
Well, do you know
Like, it's
what
gotta
would
be
be
amazing.
really worth your time is watching the Last Jedi documentary because it's surprisingly like somber for a Disney, like pure Disney puff piece, because it's literally about Mark Hamill like not really liking the script for the Last Jedi at the start.
Yeah.
How he's like, I kind of wanted to look to be better and all that, and which again that's another critical thing that people fuck up. People were like, Mark Hamill doesn't like this. Mark Hamill does like this. He just didn't like it at the start. He then acted in it, acted his heart out. Fucking guy acts a belter in Last Jedi, I should say. Mark Hamill fucking gives a career best performance. Comes around watching it and goes, oh shit, do you know what? That actually was quite good. Maybe it's not what I wanted, but do you know what? That was still quite good. Well done, Ryan. But the documentary's about his initial stuff, and it's a lot of like the working process and that. The only thing it does avoid is, the overall. And I'm like, hopefully we do get like a big, like, guys, what happened?
I mean, there's no doubt they're still on NDAs. Days Early's coming back. She can't speak about
I was
it.
going to say, she'll be off it.
Like, the Disney like interview media training system is so well done that you won't find a peep of this until like it's 20 years later.
And then there's like Adam Driver seems to just
He doesn't acknowledge it.
Aye.
Because that's better for his career, not to acknowledge it, to be honest with
just
you.
to like not think about
Aye.
it anymore.
Man doesn't have to deal with that
Even though he was
anymore.
literally the best part of all of them.
I would say so, yeah. That's probably why, I mean, to be honest, that's probably why he's not Doctor Doom, right? Or like casting these movies yet. The Marvel movies or the DC movies. Because he doesn't really want to get involved again. I don't think.
Possible, he doesn't
And
really, like,
I can
go through
respect
that
it because
situation.
man's doing some good shit right now. So I don't really need them to do anything else.
No, I'm just sort of, as long as he keeps himself busy and happy, as long as he gets the energy he deserves. I mean, other people, like, what I think, Oscar Isaac's a weird one. Oscar Isaac, like, was doing well, and then he just kept doing really well coming out of this. Oscar Isaac's funny, I thought, like, his career seems to have just stepped off of Star Wars, but not, like, as if it bounced off, just like, oh, yep, Star Wars isn't one for the collection, and he just kept going.
Well, I think he got out it because, like, I'm just very, like, to him. Like, I'm just middle of the road. I don't really care. Either way. So it doesn't, like, I could see that working for him coming off of this.
That's fair. It's a weird thing to look at. Rise of Skywalker, just the whole thing muddies everything.
Yes.
I said earlier, the music's like shit. John Williams does good songs, but like the editors were like, let's just chuck music everywhere and then keep chuck music everywhere. And do you know what? Let's also just keep reusing themes for no emotional payoff. Just like we're going to play Yoda's theme when Luke lifts the X-Wing out of the water because that's what happened in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
We're going to play like the bit where the Death Star blows up when they're about to like fly through the slug because tension.
Right.
There was a whole video about like the misuse of music's so weird. Like at the start, there's a bit where they're getting chased by TIE fighters and they play the Emperor's theme.
Right.
And it's like, but they don't know that it's the Emperor. Like,
Right.
is the implication the Emperor sent these TIE fighters? Because it's still Kylo Ren. So who, like, why use that? Why not just use the Kylo Ren theme? Like, why? The only reason you would have to do this is to just go like, man, the Emperor's in this movie. Remember the
Aye.
Emperor?
Mind him. He's
Mind
back.
Star Wars?
He's back, bro. You like him, don't you?
I like the conceptual stuff, as I say, like the planets isn't are quite cool. And the plot's just full of, there's the fucking MacGuffin chase. Like the whole plot is just we have to get the map to get the coordinates
To get
of
there.
the thing, but to get to our map we have to get the find the guy to get the
We have to
dagger.
get Kylo's map.
Aye, they go through the whole MacGuffin chase and then he just destroys their one and Ray's like, I'll just steal Kylo's then. Bye.
Because Kylo's got the map for the planet at the start. So it
Aye,
doesn't
he
even
goes to
matter.
fucking Mustafar.
Mustafar, Vader's castle.
And they were going to go they literally, I think they got as far as filming. There was a whole fucking scene with Kylo Ren, like, and it's very clearly Mustafar. At least in the castle, he talks to this fucking spider that's like living on top of like a baby's head or something in a bog.
Fucking sick,
And
man.
he's like, I have some fucking he's called the Eye of the Webbish Bog. And he's like, I'm just going to say some of the most fucking cryptic shit you've ever heard in your life, bro. And like, that is like wild, well, cool. But no, he just like gets the map and then like, you get the dagger. And then like, there's all this shit about like the logic of that movie. Like, there's this guy, Ochi, all of a sudden. And they're like,
This
oh, this is
actual dickhead,
Ochi.
man.
He's like Palpatine's like fucking guy.
I hate this guy, man.
And he's sent out to find like Rey's parents.
Yep.
He finds them on like Jakku.
Yep.
He takes them off Jakku but leaves Rey there.
Then goes
he
back.
He goes, where's Rey?
Yep.
And they go, well, she's not on Jakku. And he's like, well, I believe you.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
And then he like kills them.
Yep.
And then he goes to like the next desert. He goes to Pisana. Presumably because it's another desert planet.
Sure loves him.
He goes out of his spaceship, walks 5 steps, and
Yep.
immediately drowns to death.
Yeah.
And quicksand.
Based.
Like, what the fuck? And then he's got a dagger on him that's perfectly curvatured to some fucking ruins
Aye,
from a
that's wild.
decade ago.
That is wild, aye.
Like,
That's some
fuck
plot
off.
convenience shit. That's funny.
Like, that's embarrassing. And yeah, it just ends. Like, Palpatine.
And
There's
that's
like
it.
the whole fucking like Avengers Endgame portal shit where like all of the fucking civilian ships just appear with like, because it's just like random. Like, oh cool, Lando.
We just don't
saved the
care at
day.
this point.
They just
Aye.
don't present it with the right gravitas.
Lando's like in the movie at a wee festival or some shit.
Huh?
Lando's like in the movie at a wee festival, isn't he?
He's just at Pisana.
Weird.
He's like there and he's like, I'm back now, and I love Lando being in it.
Cool.
But it was like I think they only put him in it because he's like Lando.
I guess. Cool.
That's what
What
Ryan
else?
Johnson was like. I didn't really like force Lando in it because I just didn't like have like a place for Lando.
Right. Fair.
And JJ was like, I don't have a place for Lando either, but by God, I'm going to put him in the movie.
But he's here though. I mean, fair, you know, okay. Whatevs. It's over, man. It's over.
It's over. It all ends. Everyone hugs. Kylo Ren like dies. Rey's like miserable. I think she kind of just looks sad
Who
after
knows,
that
man?
point.
Who knows?
Buries some lightsabers in the sand. Steals somebody's name.
Maybe
open across the
Kylo will
desert.
just come back somehow. You don't know.
Somehow
Somehow.
Kylo Ren returned.
I don't think Adam Driver would do this for like all the money in the world.
Did you see that? Like it very much. I think according to him, he had to ADR his like masked lines as Kylo in like a broom
'Cause he
cupboard.
just like hates it probably.
He fucking must hate it because it was just it was a fucking paper tape like slapdash production.
Oh man.
It's just so it's disheartening
Aye.
and ill-inducing, and it's emotionally like
It's damaging to the
Stifling.
franchise.
and yeah, it damaged man. It did not resolve anything.
Yep.
It actively spat in the face like previous ones. Fucking like it does not like there's literally doesn't even reference the prequels. It doesn't even acknowledge that the prequels exist, other than the fact that they literally copy and paste the same celebration scenes at the end of this movie.
Cool. Based.
From Return of the Jedi, where it shows like there's Coruscant and there's
Yeah.
like Tatooine. There's just like this time it's Coruscant again and like Cloud City again.
Right. Fair.
And like
Cool.
okay, like these guys have celebrated the death of the
Save
same
some
guy
money.
twice in like
Save some money,
36 years.
That's kind of wild, isn't it?
Except this one's getting more holdo maneuvers. Fucking the guy for Lord of the Rings is in this.
Right.
And he's like, by the way, what if we just kill ourselves? What if we
Cool.
just do kamikaze strikes? Let's do some holdo maneuvers. That'll do
Cool.
real damage. First off, calling it the holdo maneuver in the movie shit because it's like the fan name.
Right.
Like, that's just weird to me. But the idea is like, guys, what if we all just suicide rush them?
Like
We'll
that's what
kill
we call
ourselves?
It. Yeah. We call it the holdo maneuver.
Like, what? And then you see during the celebrations, there's at least one other one. I'm not cheating that. Someone had fucking killed themselves to make that happen. Like, what do you want me to fucking say?
Bruh.
This is the thing. Is like they listened to all the feedback for Last Jedi, and it's like they specifically went on Twitter, like, and were like, "What do you think of it?" And then a bunch of like white racist guys came out, and then JJ was like, "You guys, I think you guys are onto something."
You're speaking some.
For I don't know, JJ
Liking
was
it.
a white racist guy.
Nah.
Considering what he did to Kelly when he drowned, he was like, "We're just gonna have Rose, and we're going to push her over here."
I
We're
get
gonna-
that might not be him though. Well, like no that. Like Ryan Johnson liked her a lot, and like why other character to be something. And I just don't think Judy why that.
See, this is why then you'd really need to read this original cut. This Duel of the Fates thing. Regardless of whatever the fuck Colin Trevorrow felt, like that script, Duel of the Fates is like emphasizes like Rey's like okay. Like it's got a lot more shit. Like Poe being a more specific, like learned leader, making choices and not just being a silly, goofy guy who forgets everything that happened. He literally, like, Last Jedi, he was like, "Yo, I need to be smart. I need to not lose my cool. I need to make correct decisions." This movie's like fucking, "Oh no, we're all dying, and I don't know what I'm gonna lose, and I'm a goofy ball." Like he's like, "Oh no, I'm a leader. I'm making cool choices." Rey's like a cool like Jedi. She has no social. She doesn't just magically have a yellow Jedi fucking saber at the end. In the original episode 9, she takes the two split ends of the fucking Skywalker saber and then fucking reforges it onto her staff to have a big double-ended like super lightsaber staff like Darth Maul.
Right.
And it's cool because she knows how to use a staff. She grew up on a fucking junk planet using a staff for defense.
Yeah.
It would make sense that she then use a double blade because it's the same technique. And there's all this shit about like it constantly shows the galaxy at unrest. Like it shows people inspired by like the Legend of Luke. Like this movie forgets that the whole Luke Skywalker dramatic sacrifice thing, the Last Jedi, and everyone's just miserable again. The fate's like no, people like know about that. They're all getting riled. They're throwing things at the First Order. They're shouting. They're helping the good guys because they're like, no, we're riled up. Luke Skywalker, like we're all cool. We want to resist. They go back to Coruscant. Immediately, prequel's vindicated. Like we're on a prequel planet. Like they talk about like prequel lore and that. Luke's there more dramatically. He goes up to Kylo. He's like, Kylo, you should be a good guy again. Like, stop being a bad guy. Instead of just showing up with a bad wig on Act 2, it'd be like, I actually just fucking had a lightsaber. And also, I knew you were a Palpatine the whole time. I just never told you. Or anyone. There's just so much shit like that. Like, Finn leads a Stormtrooper revolt. He starts to grapple with the fact that, no, I used to be a Stormtrooper and I know these guys. And that's fucked up that I've been killing them. And whereas in the fucking, the Rise Skywalker, bam, bam, fuck you, die, motherfucker. Like, he fucking fully foments, like, all the Stormtroopers, like, no, we're people too. And like, just there's shit like that. The only issues with that script is, I say, there's some weird stuff like that weird Rey-Poe romance. And like, Kylo Ren's not really in one of the drafts. He goes to another planet to like get like a power up, and then he comes back and they fight in like Mortis. Right. And it's cool. But ultimately, the point I'm trying to make is that yeah, there's weird things there and missteps, but Colin still paid. Like Rose was there as well. Rose is fucking part of the team. Right. Like yep. And Last Jedi, she comes out of her shell and has a whole arc, and now she's like an active member. And then fucking episode 9 for Colin, she fucking continues to be so. Right. Like Colin took all those things for Last Jedi. I was like, yep, let's just keep going. Whereas JJ was like, no, fucking guillotine, and I'm going to solder on what I was going to do originally. And I know it goes from red to blue, and that just looks weird. And one of the wires just fucking goes nowhere. And I can't even turn the fucking light on anymore because the circuits are fucked. But by God, I did what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I know...
That sees the intention. That's up to him, I guess.
I know. I'm trying to give him the credit of, like, yeah, you know, what he wants to do and time crunch that. I just... Oh, it was a cacophony of errors.
From everyone involved, yes.
It was a colossal sort of failure. What we have here is a failure to launch.
Yes. And
it was all over and it was miserable for a minute. Star Wars was just miserable for a minute, and I was like, oh cool, like I had all this love and affection that was skyrocketing, Last Jedi, Solo, all the way up to it, and I watched Rise of Skywalker, and that's fucking diabolically bad. This is just like sucked the fucking soul right out of me.
Yeah, because like, you must like really hated it, because like Astro 7 liked it, so it was like, no. Then like 9 was like, oh, also no. But you were like, yes, no, yes,
yeah,
no.
Like literally, like I was so in the mix. Rogue One's coming out, balling. Last Jedi's coming out, fucking Omega balling. Solo's coming out, balling. It was nothing but hits for me. Aye. And then there was just like the colossal miss, like the willful miss, like the we hate you and we hope you all die miss.
Lol, LOL, die.
Oh, which was such a shame. And I hope they just take the right lessons and rectify. If they're going to do this episode 10 Rey movie, I'm not even against it. Just like I don't know, just don't reference 9. Just like do that thing where like you know like MCU with like Thor 2. Like, yeah, okay, whatever, that happened. Only talk about it as much as you need to and just make sure to do your own thing now.
Don't think it's that bad, mate. Where was it the ranking? I don't think it was that bad.
What? Thor 2? No. We gave it credit because we said it wasn't. I'm not saying it's that bad, but they act like it's that bad sometimes.
Right, fair.
Or like people in the people in public act like it's that bad. Right. I joke about how Thor 2 always gets fucking referenced. Like there's 5 separate things that reference Thor 2 specifically.
That's based.
I'm like, why do people keep going back to Thor 2?
Ruined their good villains over that.
God, I guess for X was fucked, bro. Thanks for listening, guys. That was the movies of the sequel trilogy. Join us next time for the last part of the Star Wars retrospective, where we talk about the TV shows and all the other little bits and bobs we haven't covered yet. See you next time.
Scenes is a fan-created podcast. We have no affiliation with any of the brand studios or properties mentioned. All views are our own.
Produced and edited by my partner, Rebecca. Music is provided by Epidemic Sound, and the cover artwork was commissioned by Rhiannon Cargo on Twitter or Instagram.